A single photograph. A wrong number. A man who doesn't forgive mistakes. Aria Velez thought she was reclaiming her power the night she hit send on that photo, a moment of reckless defiance after her world collapsed. But the number belonged to Luca Moretti, a ghost in a tailored suit who controls New York's shadows from glass towers 30 floors above the law. One accidental message pulls her into his orbit, where trust is currency and vulnerability gets you killed. What begins as a mistake becomes an obsession. What starts as curiosity turns into war. Stay until the end. Like this video. Comment your city below. I want to see how far this story travels. The apartment smelled like bad decisions and cheap wine. Aria sat on the edge of her bed, knees pulled to her chest, phone screen glowing against her face in the darkness. 2 a.m. The city hummed outside her window, sirens wailing somewhere in the Bronx, bass thumping from the bodega 3 floors down. Voices shouting in Spanish about someone's borrowed car. Normal chaos. The kind that used to make her feel alive. Now, it just felt hollow. She'd been staring at the photo for 20 minutes. Black lace. Dim lighting. The curve of her shoulder. The defiant tilt of her chin. It wasn't pornographic, just bold, confident. The kind of image that said, "I don't need you louder than words ever could." Her thumb hovered over Marcus's contact. Marcus Chen. Her best friend since freshman year at NYU. The one person who'd sat with her through 3 days of crying after Derek walked out. The one who'd shown up at her door with kung pao chicken and terrible rom-coms and hadn't once said "I told you so," even though he absolutely had told her so about Derek 6 months ago. She typed, "Proof I still got it. Don't let me delete this in the morning. Hit send." The message whooshed away into the digital void. Aria exhaled, flopping back against her pillows. The ceiling had a water stain shaped like Texas. She'd been meaning to complain to the super for 8 months. Derek used to say it looked more like a deformed elephant. Derek used to say a lot of things. Most of them lies. Her phone buzzed. She grabbed it, expecting Marcus's usual mix of heart emojis and caps lock enthusiasm. Instead, unknown number. The message loaded. Interesting choice of introduction. Her stomach dropped. No. No, no, no. She sat up so fast her vision spotted. Thumbs flying, she opened her sent messages. There it was, the photo, the caption, everything, sent to a number she didn't recognize. Not Marcus, not anyone in her contacts. A wrong number. She'd sent a half-naked photo to a complete stranger. "Fuck," she whispered. Then louder, "Fuck." Her fingers shook as she typed, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, wrong number. Please delete that." 3 dots appeared immediately. Too late. Already saved it. Her heart hammered against her ribs. This was a joke. Had to be. Some asshole with too much time and a cruel sense of humor. She typed, "Not funny. Delete it, or I'm reporting you." For what? You sent it to me. The logic was infuriating because it was correct. She wanted to throw the phone across the room. Instead, she typed, "I made a mistake." People rarely make mistakes this specific. What's your name? Aria stared at the screen. Every true crime podcast she'd ever binged screamed at her not to answer. Don't engage, block the number. But something in the phrasing, calm, curious, not overtly threatening, made her hesitate. She typed, "Why do you want to know?" "Because I'm trying to decide if you're reckless or desperate. Both are dangerous." Her breath caught. This wasn't some random creep. The word choice was too deliberate, too controlled. She should stop. Should block him and forget this ever happened. Instead, she typed, "Who are you?" The dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Someone who doesn't get surprised often. "You surprised me." Her pulse kicked higher. This was insane. She was messaging a stranger at 2 a.m. about a photo she never meant to send, and instead of fear, she felt something else, something reckless. Is that good or bad? Depends on what you do next. Aria's finger hovered over the keyboard. Every instinct said run. But running was what she'd done with Derek. Ignored red flags, swallowed her voice, made herself smaller until there was nothing left to break. She typed, "I don't know what that means. It means I'm giving you a choice. Delete my number and forget this happened. Or keep talking." She should choose the first option. Any sane person would. But sanity had gotten her a studio apartment with a water-stained ceiling and a job answering phones at a midtown law firm where partners yelled at her for ordering the wrong lunch. Sanity had gotten her Derek, 2 years of trying to love a man who couldn't see her even when she was standing right in front of him. Maybe insanity was exactly what she needed. What happens if I keep talking? I don't know yet. That's what makes it interesting. She bit her lip. Her fingers moved before her brain could stop them. My name is Aria. The response came instantly. Luca. Something about seeing the name made it real, solid. Not a ghost or a prank, but a person on the other end of this strange, impossible conversation. Hi, Luca. Hi, Aria. Tell me something true. Her laugh was sharp, humorless. That's a weird request. So is sending photographs to strangers at 2 a.m. Fair point. She stared at the ceiling. Texas. Elephant. Proof that even the structure holding her up was falling apart. I just got out of a relationship that made me forget what I look like. The honesty surprised her. She'd barely admitted that to Marcus. The dots appeared slowly this time, like he was choosing his words carefully. And the photo? Trying to remember. Did it work? She looked at herself in the black mirror of her laptop screen. Messy hair. Smudged eyeliner. A woman at the edge of something. I don't know yet. Then I'll tell you something true. You look like someone who's been careful for too long. Her chest tightened. How could a stranger, a wrong number, see that when Derek never had? How would you know? Because careful people don't take photos like that, and they definitely don't send them at 2 a.m. She pulled her knees back to her chest, phone pressed against her face like a lifeline. Maybe I'm just stupid. No, stupid is loud and obvious. You're something else. What? Interesting. The word hung there between them, suspended in the blue glow of her screen. She should stop, should say goodnight and block him and chalk this up to the universe's weirdest near miss. Instead, she typed, "You're kind of intense for a wrong number. You're kind of bold for someone who just apologized 3 times. Despite everything, she smiled. So what now? Now you decide if you want to keep surprising me. Her thumb hovered over the keyboard. This was crazy. Messaging a stranger. Flirting? Because that's what this was, wasn't it? With someone whose face she'd never seen, whose voice she'd never heard. But crazy felt better than careful. Better than small. What if I do? Then meet me. Her heart stopped. Tomorrow, 8 p.m., Vesper. 47th and Madison. She knew Vesper. Everyone knew Vesper. The kind of restaurant where reservations took 3 months and entrees cost more than her rent. The kind of place she'd never even walked past without feeling like an imposter. That's a very expensive restaurant for a wrong number. I'm a very specific kind of person. Which is, someone who doesn't waste time. Are you coming or not? Every cell in her body screamed this was a terrible idea. You didn't meet strangers from wrong numbers. You didn't walk into situations you couldn't control. But control was overrated. Control had kept her trapped. She typed before she could stop herself. How will I know you? You won't. I'll know you. The certainty in those words should have scared her. Instead, it sent electricity down her spine. That's creepy. That's honest. 8 p.m., Aria. Don't be late. The conversation ended. No goodbye. No. See you tomorrow. Just silence and the weight of a decision she'd already made. Aria set her phone on her nightstand and stared at the ceiling until her eyes burned. Sleep was impossible. Her mind raced through scenarios. Serial killer, catfish, elaborate prank, millionaire with a weird kink, hedge fund bro who thought charm could buy anything. None of it made sense. All of it felt inevitable. She called in sick to work the next morning. Jennifer, the office manager with permanently pursed lips, sighed like Aria had just canceled Christmas. You know we're short-staffed. I know. I'm sorry, stomach bug. Mm-hmm. The sound dripped skepticism. Feel better. The line went dead. Aria spent the day pacing her apartment. She tried on 7 outfits, settled on black jeans and a silk top that made her collarbones look sharp. Not trying too hard, not trying too little. The kind of thing a woman wore when she wanted to be taken seriously. Marcus called at 6. Where were you last night? I texted you like 40 times. Aria tucked the phone between her ear and shoulder while she dug through her closet for the good boots. I was sleeping. Liar, you never sleep. Maybe I'm turning over a new leaf. You sound weird. What's going on? She should tell him. Marcus would talk her out of this, would remind her that meeting internet strangers was how people ended up on true crime podcasts. But she couldn't. Not yet. Not when she didn't understand it herself. Nothing. Just tired. You're a terrible liar, you know that? I know. She found the boots. Black leather, scuffed at the toes, the only expensive thing she owned. I'll call you tomorrow. Aria, love you. Bye. She hung up before he could protest. Vesper existed in that stratosphere of Manhattan wealth where even the air felt expensive. Aria stood outside at 7:53, watching beautiful people drift through doors held by men in uniforms that probably cost more than her monthly salary. Her hands shook. This was insane. She was about to walk into a restaurant where she didn't belong to meet a man whose face she'd never seen, based on a conversation that started with a sexting accident. She could leave. Should leave. Her feet carried her forward anyway. The host was a woman with ice blonde hair and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Reservation? I'm meeting someone. Luca? The smile shifted, became real, almost knowing. Of course. Right this way. Aria followed her through the restaurant, all low lighting and leather booths and the quiet murmur of money changing hands without ever being mentioned. Heads turned as they passed, not at her, but at the fact that she was being led deeper into the space, past the main dining room, toward a private section she hadn't known existed. The host stopped at a booth in the corner. He was already there. Luca Moretti looked nothing like what she'd imagined and exactly like what she should have expected. Mid-30s, dark hair pushed back like he'd run his hands through it too many times, jaw sharp enough to cut glass. He wore a black suit with no tie, the top button undone, expensive watch catching the dim light. But it was his eyes that stopped her, dark and depthless, and fixed on her with an intensity that made her forget how to breathe. He didn't stand, didn't smile, just watched her like she was a puzzle he intended to solve. Aria. His voice was exactly what it should be, low, controlled, the kind of voice that didn't need to be raised to be heard. Luca. Sit. Not a question, not quite a command, somewhere in between. She slid into the booth across from him, hyper-aware of the space between them, close enough to see the shadow of stubble along his jaw, far enough that she could run if she needed to. You came, he said. You didn't think I would. I thought you'd think about it for exactly 17 hours and convince yourself this was a terrible idea. It is a terrible idea. And yet, he gestured at the space between them. Here you are. A waiter appeared, silent, efficient, gone before Aria could process what just happened. 2 glasses of wine sat on the table. She hadn't ordered. Luca hadn't spoken. I don't drink red, she said. You do tonight. She should argue, should establish boundaries. Instead, she picked up the glass and took a sip. It tasted like money and bad decisions. So, she said, setting it down carefully, you're real. Disappointed? I don't know yet. Something flickered in his expression, not quite a smile. Honest. I like that. You're very intense for a dinner date. This isn't a date. Her stomach dropped. Then what is it? He leaned forward slightly. The movement was minimal but changed everything, the air, the space, the weight of his attention. It's an evaluation. Of what? Whether you're as interesting as I think you are. Aria laughed. Couldn't help it. The absurdity of sitting across from a stranger who spoke like he was negotiating a business deal while simultaneously undressing her with his eyes was too much. You're insane. Probably. He took a drink, eyes never leaving hers. But you're here anyway. Maybe I'm insane too. No, you're reckless. There's a difference. Which is? Insanity is chaos. He set his glass down with precision. Recklessness is controlled, calculated. You knew exactly what you were doing when you came here. She wanted to argue, to tell him he was wrong, that she'd stumbled into this blindly, but he wasn't wrong. What about you? She asked. What's your excuse for all this? I don't make excuses. That's not an answer. No, he agreed. It's not. The waiter returned. Plates appeared. Things Aria couldn't pronounce, arranged like art. She hadn't looked at a menu. Luca had ordered for both of them. She should be offended. Should call him controlling and leave. Instead, she picked up her fork. They ate in silence for a moment. The food was absurdly good. She hated that it was good. "Tell me about Derek," Luca said suddenly. Aria froze mid-bite. "How do you— You mentioned a breakup. Context suggests it was recent and painful." Her throat tightened. "I don't want to talk about Derek." "Why not?" "Because he's not worth talking about." "Then why did you stay?" The question landed like a punch. She set her fork down carefully, hands shaking. "That's none of your business." "You're right." He didn't look away. "But you're going to tell me anyway." "Why would I do that?" "Because you want to. Because someone who takes a photo like that at 2 in the morning is trying to prove something to someone. And I don't think it's me." Heat crawled up her neck. Anger and something else, something raw. "You don't know anything about me. I know you're here. I know you sent that photo to a wrong number and instead of panicking, you kept talking. I know you chose reckless over safe." He tilted his head slightly. "And I know Derek, whoever he is, made you believe you were less than you are." Aria's breath caught. "How?" "Because people don't forget what they look like unless someone convinces them to stop looking." The words hung between them, brutal and true. She picked up her wine and drained half the glass. Liquid courage. Liquid stupidity. "He cheated," she said finally, "for 6 months. With his coworker. Came home one night and told me he was moving out. Just like that. Like 2 years meant nothing." Luca's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes went cold. "Where is he now?" "Why?" "Curiosity." The way he said it made her think curiosity was a dangerous thing in Luca Moretti's world. "I don't know. Don't care." Liar. She flinched. "Excuse me? You care. That's why you took the photo. Why you're here. You're trying to prove he was wrong about you." "And what if I am?" "Then you're wasting your time." He leaned back, fingers drumming once against the table. "Derek was an idiot. You don't need to prove anything." The certainty in his voice made her chest ache. "You don't know that." "I do." "How?" He was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Because I've spent my entire life surrounded by people who lie for a living. And you're the first person in years who's told me the truth without expecting something in return." Aria blinked. "I sent you a wrong number sext. That's not exactly truth-telling." "It wasn't planned, wasn't calculated. It was real." His gaze held hers. "Real is rare." She didn't know what to say to that. Didn't know how to process the fact that a stranger understood her better than Derek ever had. The waiter cleared their plates, replaced them with something chocolate and decadent. Aria pushed it around with her fork, appetite gone. "So what happens now?" she asked quietly. "That depends." "On what?" "On whether you want to see me again." Her heart hammered. "Why would you want that?" "Because you interest me." "That's not a good reason." "It's the only reason that matters." She met his eyes. Saw something there that should have terrified her. Hunger, curiosity, control barely leashed. "This is insane," she whispered. "You said that already." "It doesn't make it less true." "No." He reached across the table, not touching her, just close enough that she felt the heat of his hand. "But you're going to say yes anyway." She should say no, should walk out and block his number and forget this ever happened. But Luca Moretti was right about one thing. Real was rare. And this, whatever this was, felt more real than anything she'd experienced in years. "One more dinner," she said. "That's it." His smile was slight, dangerous. "We'll see." He walked her outside. The city had shifted while they were inside, quieter, darker, the after-midnight crowd replacing the dinner rush. A car waited at the curb, black, sleek, driver standing at attention. "I can take the subway," Aria said. "No." That wasn't a question. Neither was my answer. He opened the back door. "Where do you live?" She told him. Hated that she told him. Hated more that she climbed into the car without protest. Luca slid in beside her. Too close. Not close enough. The driver pulled away from the curb without a word. They rode in silence through empty streets. Aria watched the city blur past, hyper-aware of Luca's presence beside her, the heat of him, the controlled stillness, the way he existed in space like a storm waiting to break. "Thank you," she said finally. "For dinner. You're welcome. And for whatever this is." He turned to look at her. In the darkness of the car, his eyes were almost black. "This is just the beginning, Aria." The car stopped outside her building. Luca didn't move. Didn't tell her to go. She should leave, should say goodnight and disappear. Instead, she asked, "What do you do?" "Why?" "Because men who can get reservations at Vesper in one day usually do something interesting." His smile was cold. "I solve problems." "What kind of problems?" "The kind people pay to make disappear." It should have been a red flag, a neon sign screaming danger. But Aria was so tired of safe. "Good night, Luca." She reached for the door handle. His hand caught her wrist, gentle but absolute. "One more thing." She turned back. He leaned in, not a kiss, just close enough that she could feel his breath against her ear. "Delete that photo." Her pulse jumped. "Why?" "Because it's mine now." He released her wrist. The door opened. She stumbled onto the sidewalk, heart racing, skin burning where he'd touched her. The car pulled away before she could think of a response. Aria stood on the empty street, watching taillights disappear into the dark, and wondered what the hell she'd just walked into. Inside her apartment, she locked the door, checked it twice. Her hands were shaking. She pulled out her phone. The photo was still there. Proof this wasn't a fever dream. She should delete it, should delete his number. Instead, she opened their messages. "Thank you for dinner." His response came instantly, like he'd been waiting. "Tomorrow, 8 p.m. I'll send you the address. Don't make me wait." She typed and deleted 5 responses before settling on, "You're very demanding. You're very compliant." Her laugh was sharp, breathless. "Good night, Luca." "Good night, Aria. Sweet dreams." She fell asleep with her phone clutched to her chest, still dressed, makeup smudged, and for the first time in 8 months, she didn't dream about Derek at all. The next day crawled. Work was unbearable. Jennifer's passive-aggressive comments about yesterday's absence, phones ringing endlessly, partners screaming about lunch orders and court filings and things that didn't matter. Aria smiled and nodded and counted the minutes until 8. Marcus called at lunch. "Okay, seriously, what's going on?" She was eating a sad desk salad in the break room. "Nothing. Why?" "Because you sound different." "Different how?" "I don't know. Alive?" She stabbed a piece of lettuce. "I'm always alive, Marcus." "You know what I mean. You sound like you did before." He stopped. "Before Derek." "Yeah." Aria set down her fork. Outside the break room window, the city churned, people rushing nowhere, chasing things that would never satisfy them. "Maybe I'm just having a good day. Or maybe you met someone." Her heart skipped. "What? No, that's ridiculous. You're a terrible liar." "So you keep saying, Aria." His voice gentled. "I'm happy for you. Really, just be careful, okay?" "Careful of what?" "Rebounding. Getting hurt again. You know, normal best friend concerns." She almost told him then. Almost explained about the wrong number and the restaurant and the man with dark eyes who saw through her like glass. But she couldn't. Not yet. "I'm fine, Marcus. I promise." "Okay." He didn't sound convinced. "But when you're ready to talk about whoever this is, I'm here." "I know. Love you." "Love you too. Be safe." She hung up and stared at her phone. At 7:30, a text arrived. "Tribeca. Rooftop garden. 421 Greenwich. Come alone." She took the subway this time. Needed the noise, the chaos, the reminder that the world existed beyond Luca Moretti's orbit. The building was glass and steel, the kind of place where you needed a key card just to breathe the air. A doorman stopped her in the lobby. "Can I help you?" "I'm meeting someone." "Luca Moretti?" The doorman's expression shifted. Not quite fear, something adjacent. "Penthouse, elevator C." She rode up 47 floors alone, watching the city shrink beneath her feet. The doors opened onto a rooftop she didn't know existed, Gardens and lights, and the whole impossible expanse of Manhattan spread below like a promise. Luca stood at the edge, hands in his pockets, looking out at the city like he owned it. Maybe he did. "You came," he said without turning. "You keep saying that like you're surprised." "I'm not, just pleased." She joined him at the railing. The wind was cold up here, sharp against her skin. "This is where you live?" "One of the places." "How many places do you have?" "Enough." She turned to look at him. In the city lights, his face was all angles and shadows. "Are you going to tell me what you actually do, or do I have to guess?" "You can try." "Finance." "Close." "Consulting." "Closer." "Organized crime." He smiled. Actually smiled. "Very close." Her stomach dropped. "I was joking." "I wasn't." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Below, the city hummed, oblivious, endless. "I should go," Aria whispered, "but you won't." "Why not?" He finally looked at her. "Because you already knew. You've known since the restaurant, and you're still here." He was right. Somehow, impossibly, she'd known. Known that men like Luca Moretti didn't exist in normal spaces, didn't operate by normal rules. "What do you want from me?" she asked. "I don't know yet." "That's a terrible answer." "It's an honest one." He stepped closer, not touching, just close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. "Ask me why I invited you here." "Why?" "Because in a world built on lies, you're the first real thing I've seen in years." His hand came up, fingers brushing her jaw, light, careful, like she might shatter. "And I'm trying to decide if I want to ruin you or keep you." Her breath stuttered. "That's terrifying?" "Yes." "Good. Fear means you're smart." His thumb traced her bottom lip. "But you're still here." She should leave, should run, should do anything except lean into his touch like a woman drowning. "This is insane," she whispered. "You keep saying that." "Because it keeps being true." His other hand slid into her hair, tilting her face up. "Then let's be insane together." He kissed her, not gentle, not careful, like a man who'd been holding back and finally let go. Aria's hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer, kissing him back with 2 years of silence and 8 months of anger and 1 impossible week of feeling seen. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, the city spun beneath them. "Come work for me," Luca said. She blinked. "What?" "I need someone I can trust. Someone real." "You just met me. And yet—" He kissed her again, softer this time. "Say yes. I don't even know what you do." "You will." "Luca?" "Say yes, Aria." Every rational thought screamed no. Every instinct said run. But Aria Velez was so goddamn tired of being rational. "Yes." His smile was dangerous. "Good." That night, he told her the truth. They sat in his penthouse, absurdly large, absurdly empty, the kind of space that echoed with loneliness, and he explained what solving problems actually meant. Money laundering, strategic acquisitions, quiet negotiations between people who didn't officially exist. He was the space between legal and illegal, the man who made things disappear. "You're a criminal," Aria said. "I'm a businessman." "That's semantics." Everything is semantics. She should have been horrified, should have walked out. Instead, she asked, "And you want me to do what exactly?" "Answer phones, schedule meetings, be visible." "Why visible?" "Because everyone knows what I am. No one trusts me." He leaned forward. "But you? You're no one, which makes you perfect." "For what?" "For making people believe I'm capable of normal." She laughed, couldn't help it. "You want me to be your beard? I want you to be my access point, my proof of humanity." His eyes held hers. "And I'll pay you 3 times what you make now." The number he named made her dizzy. "Why?" "Because I can. Because you interest me. Because—" He stopped. "Because what?" "Because loneliness is expensive. and I'm tired of paying for it alone. The honesty in his voice broke something in her chest. This is crazy, Luca. Yes. I could get hurt. Yes. I could get arrested. No, I'm very good at what I do. She stood, paced to the window. Manhattan glittered below. A million lives, a million choices, all of them safer than this. If I do this, she said slowly, I want to know everything, no secrets. Done. And if I want out, you walk. No questions. She turned to face him. Promise? I don't make promises I can't keep. It wasn't a promise, but somehow it felt like one anyway. When do I start? His smile was devastating. Now. The first week was surreal. Luca set her up in an office 3 floors below his, glass walls, imported furniture, a view that made her old cubicle look like a prison cell. Her job was simple: answer his phone, schedule his meetings, smile at dangerous men in expensive suits. She was good at it, better than good. You're a natural, Luca said one afternoon, leaning in her doorway. At being fake? At being charming. He stepped inside, closing the door. There's a difference. Is there? He crossed to her desk, perched on the edge, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something dark and expensive. You make them trust me, he said quietly. That's valuable. Or dangerous. Both. He reached out, fingers brushing her wrist. The touch was light but electric. Dinner tonight. My place. Is that an order or an invitation? Does it matter? She met his eyes, saw heat there, hunger, something that made her pulse kick higher. No, she admitted. His smile was slow. Good, my keeper, I must dance. They fell into a rhythm. Days were professional. She answered phones, he ran an empire. They existed in adjacent spaces without touching. Nights were different. Dinners at his penthouse. Conversations that stretched past midnight. Luca slowly, carefully, pulling her into his world. He told her about his father, a man who'd built an empire on blood and died in a pool of it. About growing up surrounded by violence, learning that control was survival. She told him about growing up in the Bronx, about her mother who cleaned houses and her father who disappeared when she was 7, about NYU and student loans and the constant feeling of not belonging. You belong here, Luca said one night, wine-drunk and honest. In your world? With me. The words hung between them. Aria set down her glass carefully. Luca! I know. It's too soon, too fast, too everything. He reached across the table, fingers threading through hers. But I don't care. She should pull away, should establish boundaries. Instead, she held on tighter. This is insane, she whispered. You keep saying that. Because you keep making it true. He stood, pulled her up with him. His hands cupped her face, thumbs tracing her cheekbones. Then let's be insane together. He kissed her. And this time, Aria didn't pull away. 2 months in, everything shattered. It started with a phone call. Aria was in Luca's office, going through his schedule, when his phone buzzed. He glanced at it. Went very, very still. What? She asked. Nothing. Excuse me. He disappeared into his private office, closed the door. Aria tried to focus on work. Failed. Something in his expression had been wrong. Not anger, not fear. Something colder. 20 minutes later, he emerged, face blank, eyes dead. Go home. She stood. Luca, what's... Now, Aria? The ice in his voice stopped her heart. Did I do something wrong? Just go. She grabbed her bag, hands shaking. In 3 months, he'd never spoken to her like this. Like she was a stranger, an obstacle. Luca, please. Get out. She left. Took the elevator down 47 floors with tears burning her eyes and terror clawing her throat. In the lobby, she pulled out her phone. 17 missed calls, all from Marcus. Her hands shook as she dialed back. He answered on the first ring. Thank God. Aria, where are you? Leaving work. What's wrong? Why did you... You need to come over, right now. Marcus, I can't. Something happened with Luca and I. Aria, His voice cracked. It's about Derek. Her world tilted. What about him? Just come over, please. She took a cab. Spent 20 minutes in traffic that felt like hours. Marcus buzzed her up immediately. He looked terrible, pale, shaken, like he'd seen something that couldn't be unseen. What happened? She demanded. He handed her his phone. It was a news article. Local section, 2 days old. Williamsburg man found dead in apparent robbery. Derek's face stared back at her. The room spun. He's dead? They found him yesterday. Mugging gone wrong, police think. But Aria... Marcus's hands were shaking. I did some digging, called some people, and there are rumors. What kind of rumors? That it wasn't random, that someone paid for it. Her blood went cold. That's insane. Why would... Then she remembered. Where is he now? Why? Curiosity. No. Aria. Marcus grabbed her shoulders. Who is Luca Moretti? She couldn't breathe. He's my boss. He wouldn't... I looked him up. There's almost nothing online. No social media. No LinkedIn. Just whispers. His eyes were wild. People saying he's connected. Dangerous. Aria, did you tell him about Derek? She had. God help her, she'd told him everything. Phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered without thinking. Hello? A voice she didn't recognize. Ms. Velez, you need to come with us. Now. Who is this? Friends of Mr. Moretti. There's been a complication. What kind of... Tires screeched outside. Marcus ran to the window. There's a car outside, black SUV. Aria's heart hammered. I'm not going anywhere. You don't have a choice. Your phone has been compromised. They're coming for you. The line went dead. Marcus turned to her, face white. What the fuck did you get into? Before she could answer, his apartment door exploded inward. The door didn't just open, it disintegrated. Wood splintered inward like shrapnel. Marcus threw himself sideways, hit the floor hard, elbows cracking against tile. Aria's scream died in her throat as 3 men poured through the opening, black tactical gear, faces covered, moving with the kind of precision that said military training and zero hesitation. The first one grabbed her arm before she could think, yanked her forward so hard her shoulder screamed. Don't fight, he said, calm, professional, like he was asking her to step into an elevator. Marcus scrambled to his feet. Get the fuck off her! The second man moved. One fluid motion, forearm to Marcus's chest, slamming him back against the wall hard enough to rattle picture frames. Marcus gasped, face going red, feet scrabbling for purchase. Marcus! Aria twisted against the grip on her arm. Useless. The man holding her didn't even flinch. We're not here to hurt anyone, the first man said. Still calm, still terrifying in his composure. We're here to keep you alive. By breaking down the door, her voice came out shrill, cracked with adrenaline. By getting you out before the people who want you dead figure out where you are. The words landed like ice water. What people? Move now. Questions later. He pulled her toward the destroyed doorway. Aria dug her heels in, panic overriding logic. This was insane. These were strangers, armed strangers who'd just committed breaking and entering. I'm not going anywhere with... The third man spoke for the first time. Ms. Velez, 3 cars just pulled up outside. None of them are ours. You have approximately 90 seconds before this stops being a rescue and becomes a firefight. Marcus was still pinned to the wall, breathing hard, eyes wild. He looked at Aria and she saw the terror there, the same terror clawing through her chest. It's okay, she said. Didn't believe it. Marcus, it's okay, Ma'am. Now. The first man didn't wait for agreement, just dragged her forward. She stumbled over debris from the door, nearly went down, caught herself on the frame. Behind her, the second man released Marcus. Stay inside. Lock what's left of that door. Don't open it for anyone. Aria, Marcus's voice broke. I'll call you. She threw the words over her shoulder as they hauled her into the hallway. I promise I'll... The stairwell door slammed shut behind them, cutting off whatever Marcus said next. Then they were moving, down concrete stairs, boots echoing, her flat slipping on the smooth steps. The man holding her arm kept her upright when she stumbled, efficient and impersonal as machinery. Where are we going? She gasped. Garage. Service entrance. Who are you? Employed by someone who wants you breathing. Luca. Silence. Which was answer enough. They hit the ground floor. Burst through a service door into underground parking, dim fluorescence, oil-stained concrete, the smell of exhaust and rot. A black SUV idled 20 feet away, driver already behind the wheel. Footsteps thundered above them. Voices shouting, not English, something Slavic, hard consonants bouncing off concrete. In, now. The back door was already open. Aria dove inside, banging her knee on the doorframe hard enough to bring tears. The three men piled in after her, the door slammed, and the SUV peeled out before anyone had their seatbelt on. Tires shrieked. The vehicle fishtailed around a corner, threw her against the door. She scrabbled for the seatbelt with shaking hands, finally got it clicked as they rocketed up the exit ramp into blinding daylight. Behind them, two sedans exploded out of the garage entrance. Black, tinted windows, moving fast. We've got company, the driver said. Flat, unsurprised. The man beside her, the one who'd done most of the talking, pulled out a phone, hit a single button, waited. It's Reeves. Package secured, but we're burned. 2 vehicles in pursuit, possibly 3. Pause. Understood. He hung up. Aria's chest was heaving. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. What the fuck is happening? You've been marked. What does that mean? Reeves, if that was his name, finally looked at her. He had gray eyes, cold as January. It means someone put a price on your head, and every 2-bit contractor in the city is trying to collect. The SUV swerved hard left. A sedan tried to follow, clipped a parked car, spun out in a shower of sparks. One down. Why? Her voice cracked. I didn't do anything. I'm nobody. You work for Luca Moretti. I answer his phones. Doesn't matter. You're close to him. That makes you leverage. The second sedan rammed them from behind. Aria's head snapped forward, seatbelt biting into her chest. The driver cursed, floored it, weaving through traffic like it was a video game. Who wants leverage? She asked. Needed to know. Needed something to make sense. Take your pick. Moretti has a long list of enemies. They blew through a red light. Horns blared. A truck swerved, missed them by inches. Is he okay? Luca, is he, He's fine. You're the one they want. Past tense, present tense. The distinction felt important, but her brain couldn't process it through the adrenaline. The second sedan pulled alongside them. Window rolling down. Aria saw the gun before she understood what she was seeing. Black metal, long barrel, angling toward their vehicle. Down! Reeves shoved her head below the window line as gunfire erupted. Glass exploded inward. Someone was screaming. Might have been her. Their driver yanked the wheel hard right, sideswiped the sedan, sent it careening into a storefront. Metal shrieked. More glass. The SUV fishtailed but held the road. Aria stayed down, hands over her head, breathing in gasps that tasted like copper and terror. Clear, Reeves said. She sat up slowly. The back window was gone. Wind howled through the opening, carrying the sounds of the city. Sirens now, getting closer. Where are you taking me? Somewhere safe. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting. She wanted to argue, to demand they take her to Luca. But the image of Derek's face in that news article flashed through her mind and the words died in her throat. Someone paid for it. No. Luca wouldn't. He couldn't. Could he? They drove for 20 minutes. Left Manhattan, crossed into Queens, wound through industrial parks and warehouse districts until nothing looked familiar. Finally pulled into an underground garage beneath a building that might have been a factory once. The SUV stopped, engine ticking in the sudden silence. Reeves opened the door. Out. Aria's legs barely held her when she stood. Adrenaline was wearing off, leaving her shaky and cold. She followed them to an elevator. Old freight model, cage doors, the smell of rust and grease. They rode up in silence. Her ears were ringing from the gunfire. Or maybe that was just panic. The elevator lurched to a stop. 4th floor. Reeves pulled the cage open, gestured her out into a hallway that looked like it hadn't seen maintenance since the 80s. Through there. A door at the end of the hall. Industrial. Heavy. Aria walked. Each step felt like moving through water. Reeves opened the door. Luca stood inside. The relief that hit her was physical. Her knees actually buckled. He moved fast, crossed the space in 3 strides, caught her before she could fall. "I've got you." His voice was rough, strained. "I've got you." She grabbed his shirt, fisted the fabric hard enough her knuckles went white. He was solid, real, alive. "What the fuck is happening?" The words came out broken. "Derek's dead, and men broke down Marcus's door, and someone shot at me." "I know." He pulled back enough to see her face. His hands cupped her jaw, thumbs brushing her cheekbones. "I know. I'm sorry. Fuck. This is my fault." Behind them, Reeves cleared his throat. "Sir, we need to move. Give us a minute." "We don't have a minute." They tracked her phone. "It's compromised." Luca's expression went dark. "How?" "We're still working on it, but someone's been monitoring her communications for at least a week. Maybe longer." Aria's stomach dropped. "What?" Luca's hands fell away. He turned to Reeves, and the temperature in the room plummeted. "Find out who, and find out how." "Already on it." "And Reeves?" His voice could have cut glass. "When you find them, I want them breathing. Barely. But breathing." Reeves nodded once and disappeared. Aria stood there, shaking, trying to process. "My phone is... Someone's been listening to... everything." Luca's jaw was tight. "Every call, every text, every conversation. For how long? We don't know yet." She thought about the last week. Calls with Marcus, texts with her mom, conversations with Luca about schedules and meetings, and... oh, God. "Did they hear?" Her voice cracked. "The things we talked about. Your business. Probably. Luca, it doesn't matter right now. What matters is keeping you alive." She wanted to laugh, wanted to scream, settled for sinking into the nearest chair before her legs gave out completely. "Derek," she said, "did you—" "No." The answer came too fast, too sharp. "Luca." He crouched in front of her, eye level now. His face was harder than she'd ever seen it, all the careful control stripped away, leaving something raw and furious underneath. "I did not kill your ex-boyfriend, Aria. I wanted to. I thought about it. But I didn't." "Then who did?" "Someone trying to send me a message." The words hung in the air between them. "What message?" "That they can get to the people I care about." The people I care about. Even through the fear, the words made her chest ache. "So Derek died because of me? Because I told you about him?" "Derek died because someone wanted to hurt me. That's not your fault." "It feels like my fault." "It's not." He took her hands. His were steady where hers were shaking. "This is on me. All of it. I brought you into this world and I should have protected you better. You barely know me." Something shifted in his expression. "I know enough." Footsteps in the hallway. A woman appeared, late 20s, dark hair pulled back severe, wearing tactical gear that matched Reeves's team. She had a laptop under one arm and an expression that said she didn't have time for feelings. "We've got a problem," she said without preamble. Luca stood. "Sienna, talk." The woman, Sienna, opened her laptop on the table, turned it so they could see. Security footage played across the screen, grainy, black and white, timestamped from 2 hours ago. "This is from a camera 3 blocks from your office." The footage showed a woman walking down the street. Professional clothes, blonde hair, familiar posture. Aria's blood went cold. "That's Jennifer." "Your office manager?" Luca's voice was flat. "Yeah, she's—" Aria stopped. Rewound the implications. "No, that's impossible. Jennifer's worked at the firm for 6 years. She's a plant." Sienna tapped the keyboard. The footage zoomed, enhanced. Jennifer was talking on a phone, face partially visible. Her expression was nothing like the perpetually annoyed woman Aria knew. This version was focused, alert, dangerous. "We pulled phone records," Sienna continued. "She's been in contact with Dmitry Volkov's people for the last 8 months." Luca went very still. Volkov. The name meant nothing to Aria, but the way Luca said it, like a curse, like a promise, made her spine straighten. "Who's that?" "Competition." Luca's voice was carefully controlled. Too controlled. "Russian. Territorial. has been trying to push into my markets for 2 years. And he planted someone in my office? In the law firm you worked at, where you had access to client information, schedules, communications. Sienna looked at her without sympathy. You were the perfect access point. Unknown, trusted, close enough to Moretti to be useful. Aria's mind raced back through the last 3 months. Jennifer assigning her to answer Luca's calls. Jennifer always nearby when she scheduled his meetings. Jennifer who'd been so irritated when Aria called in sick that one day. Because she'd needed Aria there. Needed the access. I'm going to be sick. She made it to the trash can in the corner before her stomach emptied. Luca was there instantly, one hand on her back, steady and warm. When she finished, she stayed bent over, breathing hard, tasting bile. I'm sorry. Her voice was hoarse. I didn't know, I swear, I didn't. I know. I would never. Aria. He turned her to face him. His eyes were dark but not cold. Not with her. I know. Then why did you throw me out? Earlier at the office, Because I realized your phone was compromised and I needed you gone before Volkov's people moved. I called Reeves the second you left, told him to get you somewhere safe. You could have told me there wasn't time, and I needed it to look real. If they were watching, and they were, they needed to believe I was cutting you loose. The logic made sense. The execution had felt like being gutted. You scared the shit out of me. I know. I'm sorry. Sienna cleared her throat. Touching. But we have bigger problems. Luca's expression shuddered. He stood, pulling Aria up with him. Show me. Sienna pulled up another window. More footage, this time inside what looked like a parking garage. 2 men dragging someone between them. The someone was limp, head down, feet dragging. The timestamp said 30 minutes ago. They grabbed him outside his apartment, Sienna said. Took him to one of Volkov's warehouses in Red Hook. Who? Aria asked, but she already knew. Could see it in the set of Luca's shoulders. The camera angle shifted, showed the captive's face. Marcus. Aria's world tilted. No. The word barely made it past her lips. No, they said, your people said to stay inside. They said he'd be safe. They moved faster than we anticipated. Sienna's voice was clinical, professional. Volkov wants leverage. He's got it now. Aria spun to Luca. We have to go get him, right now. We have to. It's a trap. I don't care. Aria, he's there because of me. Her voice cracked, rose. Because I dragged him into this. Because I was too stupid to see what was happening. This isn't your fault. Then whose fault is it? Yours? She shoved him, useless against his weight, but she needed to do something, needed to move. You're the one who pulled me into this world. You're the one who... I know. His voice was hard, final. I know. And I'm going to fix it. How? They have Marcus. They're going to kill him. Not yet, they won't. He's only valuable alive. That's supposed to make me feel better? It's supposed to make you think. He caught her hands, held them still. Volkov took your friend to draw me out. He wants me walking into that warehouse because he knows I'll have to come. It's textbook. So what do? We don't do anything. You stay here. I handle this. Like hell. Aria. The ice was back in his voice. This is not a negotiation. You stay here with Sienna. You don't leave. You don't call anyone. You don't fucking breathe wrong. Understood? She wanted to argue, wanted to scream, but the look in his eyes stopped her. This wasn't the Luca who'd kissed her on the rooftop. This was the man who'd built an empire on other people's fear. Understood, she whispered. He held her gaze for a long moment, then leaned in, pressed his forehead to hers, brief, intense, aching. I'll get him back. Promise? I don't make promises I can't keep. It wasn't a promise, but somehow it felt like one anyway. Then he was gone, the door closing behind him with a finality that made her chest hurt. Sienna was already typing, pulling up maps and schematics. You should eat something. This is going to take a while. I'm not hungry. You're in shock. Eat anyway. There was protein bars and bottled water on a table in the corner. Aria forced herself to choke down half a bar, even though it tasted like cardboard. Her hands were still shaking. How long have you worked for him? She asked. Sienna didn't look up from her laptop. 4 years. Doing what? Whatever needs doing. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting. Aria sank into a chair, stared at the wall. Her mind kept circling back to Marcus, his face in that security footage, unconscious, helpless. Marcus, who'd been her friend since freshman year, who'd held her while she cried over Derek, who'd warned her to be careful. She hadn't listened. This is my fault, she said again. Self-pity is useless. Sienna's voice was flat. Save it for after. After what? After we know if your friend is breathing or not. The words were brutal, honest. Aria pulled her knees to her chest and waited. 2 hours crawled by. Sienna worked in silence, typing, making calls in languages Aria didn't recognize, coordinating things she didn't want to understand. Outside the windows, the sun was setting, painting the industrial landscape in shades of rust and shadow. Aria's phone sat on the table, powered off. Evidence. She kept thinking about all the conversations she'd had, all the texts. Had Jennifer been listening to everything? Had Volkov heard her talking to Marcus about Luca, heard her mother asking when she was coming home for dinner? The violation made her skin crawl. How did they get into my phone? She asked finally. Sienna glanced up. Could be anything. Malware in an email attachment, compromised Wi-Fi, or Jennifer just cloned it when you weren't looking. That's possible? If you know what you're doing, takes about 90 seconds. Aria thought back, tried to remember if she'd ever left her phone unattended around Jennifer. Probably. She'd been careless, stupid. I should have known, she said. I should have seen. You're not trained for this. Sienna closed her laptop, actually looked at Aria for the first time in 2 hours. Moretti shouldn't have brought you in without proper vetting. That's on him, not you. You don't like me. I don't know you. But you don't like that he brought me in. Sienna was quiet for a moment. Then, Luca doesn't let people in. Ever. He's controlled, calculated, doesn't make mistakes. Then you show up and suddenly he's taking risks, making decisions based on… She stopped. Based on what? Feelings, which in this business gets you killed. The honesty was startling. You think I'm going to get him killed? I think you're a variable he can't account for, and variables are dangerous. Before Aria could respond, Sienna's phone buzzed. She answered immediately. Talk to me. Pause. Her expression shifted. How many? Another pause. Fuck. Okay. I'm on it. She hung up, started typing furiously. What? Aria demanded. What happened? Luca's moving on the warehouse, but Volkov anticipated. There's at least 15 hostiles inside, maybe more. Aria's heart hammered. Is that… Can he… He's got 8 men with him, including Reeves. That's not enough. It's what we have. Sienna pulled up a schematic. Building layout, entry points marked in red. He's going in through the south entrance, trying to avoid the main floor where they're holding your friend. How do you know where they're holding him? We don't. Best guess based on… She stopped. Listened to something coming through an earpiece Aria hadn't noticed. Shit. What? They're inside. We've got visual. She turned the laptop. Security feed. Low quality, jumpy, but clear enough. Men in tactical gear moving through a dark space. Luca in the lead, gun raised, moving like water. Then gunfire. The feed went to static. Aria lunged forward. What happened? Where? Cameras down. Could be interference, could be… More gunfire. Distant. Coming from outside. Sienna's head snapped toward the sound. Her hand went to the gun at her hip. We need to move, now! What? Why? Because they found us. The window shattered. Aria hit the ground on instinct, arms over her head. Glass rained down. Something whistled past where her head had been. Bullet, knife, didn't matter. Sienna was already returning fire, 3 quick shots through the broken window. Go! Back door! Move! Aria scrambled to her feet, slipping on glass. Sienna grabbed her arm, yanked her toward a door Aria hadn't noticed. Steel, industrial, built into the back wall. More gunfire. The laptop on the table exploded, plastic and metal fragmenting. Sienna kicked the door open. Stairs, go down. Don't stop. What about you? I'm buying you time. Move! Aria ran. Down concrete stairs, feet slapping echoes that chased her into darkness. Behind her, more gunfire, shouting, a scream, male, cut short. She kept going. Hit the bottom floor. Emergency exit. She slammed through it into an alley that smelled like trash and standing water. Kept running. Behind her, the building exploded. The shockwave threw her forward. She hit pavement hard, palms shredding, air punching out of her lungs. Heat washed over her back, followed by debris, concrete chunks, rebar, glass. When she could breathe again, she rolled over. The building was burning. Fourth floor completely gone, flames licking out where walls used to be. "Sienna?" she whispered. No one answered. Aria forced herself up, legs shaking, everything shaking. She had to move, had to... Where? Luca was at the warehouse. Sienna was gone. Marcus was still hostage. And she was alone in an alley in Queens with no phone, no money, no idea which way to run. A car screeched around the corner. Black sedan, tinted windows. Aria turned to run. Hands grabbed her from behind, strong, gloved, smelling like gunpowder. She screamed, thrashed, got an elbow back that connected with something soft. Heard a grunt. But there were two of them. The second one got an arm around her throat, cut off her air. She clawed at the arm, useless, vision starting to spot. "Stop fighting," a voice said, accented, Russian, "or I snap your neck." She went limp. They dragged her to the sedan, threw her in the back. Someone zip-tied her wrists, pulled a hood over her head. The world went dark. The car accelerated. Aria tried to track turns, count seconds, anything to maintain orientation. Lost it after the third or fourth turn. Just focused on breathing through the hood, on not panicking, on staying conscious. They drove for maybe 20 minutes, stopped. The hood came off. She was in another warehouse, different from the one in the security footage. Bigger, older. The smell of rust and seawater suggesting they were near the waterfront. 4 men surrounded her. None of them Luca's people. One stepped forward. 50s, gray at the temples, expensive suit that didn't match the surroundings. He had the kind of face that suggested authority, control. "Ms. Velez." His accent was cultured, European. "My name is Dmitry Volkov, and we need to have a conversation." Aria's mouth was dry. "Fuck you." He smiled. "I can see why Luca likes you. You have fire." "Where's my friend?" "Marcus Chen? He's here. Alive. For now." Volkov gestured to someone behind her. They dragged Marcus forward, hands bound, face bruised but conscious. His eyes went wide when he saw her. "Aria, I'm okay." Her voice cracked. "I'm okay." Volkov walked a slow circle around them. "Luca Moretti is a difficult man to pressure. He doesn't care about money. Threats bore him. He has no family to leverage." He stopped in front of Aria. "But he cares about you." "You don't know that. I know he just walked 15 of my men into an ambush trying to retrieve your friend. I know he pulled resources from 3 other operations to find you. I know..." He leaned in close. "I know he's making mistakes. And men in our business who make mistakes end up dead." Aria held his gaze, refused to look away even though every instinct screamed to. "What do you want?" "Simple. I want Luca to walk away from the Port Authority contracts. Sign them over to me. In exchange, you and your friend go free." "And if he doesn't?" Volkov's smile was cold. "Then I send him pieces of you until he changes his mind." Her stomach turned, but she kept her voice steady. "He won't negotiate." "Oh, I think he will. For you." He pulled out a phone. "Let's find out." He dialed. Put it on speaker. It rang twice. Then, "Volkov?" Luca's voice, rough, furious. "Moretti, I have something of yours." Silence on the line. Then, "If you've hurt her, she's unharmed. For now. Whether that continues depends entirely on you. What do you want?" "Port Authority. All of it. Sign it over and she walks." More silence. Aria could hear breathing on the other end. Could picture Luca's face, the barely controlled rage, the calculations running behind his eyes. "Let me talk to her." Volkov held the phone toward Aria. "Luca?" Her voice was steadier than she felt. "Are you hurt?" "No, but they have Marcus too." "I know. I'm sorry. This is..." Fuck. This is my fault. Stop apologizing and come get us. His laugh was broken. Working on it. Luca. She took a breath. Don't give him what he wants. Aria, I mean it. Don't. Whatever those contracts are worth, they're not worth... Volkov pulled the phone back. Touching, but irrelevant. You have 1 hour, Moretti. Sign over the contracts or I start cutting pieces off. You don't want to do that. Don't I? Volkov's voice was pleasant, conversational. I've been very patient with you. You operate in my territory, undercut my prices, steal my clients. I've tolerated it because open war is expensive, but my patience has limits. So does mine. Then we understand each other. 1 hour. He hung up. Aria's heart was hammering so hard it hurt. He's not going to do it. Then you'd better hope he cares about you more than his pride. Volkov gestured to his men. They grabbed Aria and Marcus, dragged them toward the back of the warehouse, threw them into a room that might have been an office once. Concrete floor, no windows, a single door with a lock that clicked behind them. Marcus sagged against the wall. Jesus Christ, what the fuck did you get into? I know, I'm sorry. Marcus, I'm so sorry. Are you okay? Did they hurt you? I'm fine. You? He touched his face, winced. I've had better days. Despite everything, she almost laughed. Then the adrenaline started wearing off and her hands started shaking again. Derek's dead, she said. They killed him to send Luca a message. Marcus went very still. What? He didn't do it. Luca. He swears he didn't. But Derek's dead because of you. Because of this. He gestured at the room, the zip ties on their wrists, the situation they were drowning in. Yes. He was quiet for a long time. Then, I told you to be careful. I know. I told you this guy was dangerous. I know. And you didn't listen. I know. The words came out sharp, broken. I know, okay? I fucked up. I dragged you into this, and now Derek's dead, and we're zip-tied in a warehouse, and Her voice cracked. I don't know how to fix it. Marcus looked at her, really looked, and his expression softened. Come here. She crossed the room, sat beside him, let him lean his shoulder against hers, awkward with bound hands, but comforting anyway. For what it's worth, he said quietly, I don't think you fucked up. Marcus, I think you fell for someone dangerous, which is different. He exhaled slowly. I've seen you with Derek. You were small, quiet, like you were apologizing for existing. These last few months, you've been different, alive. Is that worth this? I don't know. Ask me when we're not about to die. She laughed, watery, broken. Deal. They sat in silence, waiting for the hour to run out, waiting for Luca to make his choice, waiting to see if she was worth saving. The hour didn't crawl. It evaporated. Aria counted seconds in her head until the numbers stopped making sense. Beside her, Marcus had gone quiet. The kind of quiet that came from running out of platitudes. The concrete floor was cold enough to leach heat through her jeans. Her wrists ached where the zip ties bit into skin. Outside their makeshift cell, voices murmured in Russian. Footsteps. The metallic click of weapons being checked and rechecked, men preparing for violence with the casual efficiency of routine. Do you think he'll come? Marcus asked finally. His voice was hoarse. I don't know. But you want him to. It wasn't a question. Aria closed her eyes, tried to picture Luca's face, the careful control, the dark eyes that saw too much, the way he'd looked at her on that rooftop like she was the only real thing in his manufactured world. Yes, she whispered. I want him to. Even if it gets him killed? He won't. She stopped. Because she didn't know that. Didn't know anything except that 3 months ago she'd sent a photo to a wrong number and now people were dying. The door opened. Volkov stood in the frame, backlit by fluorescent warehouse lighting. He checked his watch with theatrical precision. Time's up. Aria's stomach dropped. He needs more time. He had an hour. I'm a man of my word. Volkov gestured. 2 of his men entered, grabbed Marcus, hauled him to his feet. Wait! Aria scrambled up. Please, just give him 5 more minutes. He's probably on his way. Then he'll arrive to find incentive to move faster. Volkov's smile was pleasant, empty. Take him. No! Aria lunged forward, got an arm around Marcus before someone yanked her back hard enough to slam her against the wall. Air punched from her lungs. Marcus was struggling now, thrashing against the hands holding him. Get the fuck off me! Aria! Marcus! They dragged him out. The door slammed shut, locked. Aria threw herself against it, pounding with bound hands, screaming until her throat was raw. The metal didn't give, didn't even dent. From somewhere deeper in the warehouse, Marcus screamed. The sound cut off abruptly. Then silence. Aria sank to the floor, back against the door, chest heaving. Tears burned her eyes but wouldn't fall. Shock, maybe. Or the horrible certainty that crying was useless. Footsteps approached. The door opened again. This time it was just Volkov, alone, holding a phone. Your friend is very brave, he said conversationally. Only screamed twice before passing out. Impressive. Rage ignited in Aria's chest. White hot and clarifying. I will fucking kill you. With what? Your devastating glare? He crouched in front of her, eye level. You're not a killer, Ms. Velez. You're a secretary who stumbled into a world she doesn't understand. And you're a coward who tortures people for leverage. His hand moved so fast she didn't see it coming. The slap snapped her head sideways, filled her mouth with copper. Careful, Volkov said mildly. I'm trying to be civilized, but my patience has limits. Aria spit blood at his feet. He sighed, stood, held up the phone. Moretti still isn't answering, which means either he's on his way or he's decided you're not worth the trouble. He checked his watch again. We'll know soon enough. He'll come. You sound very certain. I am. Why? Because he whispered sweet things? Took you to expensive restaurants? Volkov's laugh was sharp. Men like Luca Moretti don't love Ms. Velez. We're not built for it. We use people until they're no longer useful, then we discard them. You don't know him. I know exactly what he is, because I'm the same thing. He leaned against the doorframe. Let me tell you what's going to happen. One of three scenarios. Scenario 1. Luca arrives, tries to be a hero, gets himself and everyone he brought killed. Scenario 2. He doesn't come at all, and I kill you and your friend to prove a point. Scenario 3, and this is my preference. He signs over the contracts, I let you go, and we all walk away from this mess with minimal bloodshed. He won't sign. Then he doesn't care about you as much as you think. The words landed like knives. Because somewhere beneath the rage and fear, doubt was coiling. What if Volkov was right? What if she'd mistaken obsession for something deeper? What if Luca had already cut his losses and moved on? Tell me something, Volkov said. Did he ever actually say he loved you? Aria's throat tightened. That's none of your business. That's a no. He smiled. Luca is very good at making people feel special, important. It's how he operates. But love? He shook his head. Love requires vulnerability, and vulnerability gets you killed in this business. You're wrong. Am I? Then where is he? As if summoned by the question, an explosion rocked the building. The shockwave threw Volkov sideways. Aria hit the floor, ears ringing, dust and debris raining from the ceiling. Somewhere close, men were shouting. Gunfire erupted. Not scattered shots, but sustained volleys, the sound of a firefight. Volkov scrambled to his feet, pulling a gun from inside his jacket. Stay here, he ordered, then disappeared into the chaos. Like hell. Aria forced herself up on shaking legs. The door was ajar. Volkov had been too distracted to lock it. She stumbled out into the warehouse proper. It was pandemonium. Volkov's men were scattered across the space, taking cover behind crates and machinery, firing at targets Aria couldn't see through the smoke. Bodies already on the ground. At least 3, maybe more. The air smelled like cordite and burning plastic. She needed to find Marcus. Keeping low, she moved along the wall, hands still zip-tied, trying to stay out of the line of fire. A bullet sparked off metal inches from her head. She dropped, pressed herself against a shipping container, waited for her heart to stop trying to escape her chest. Someone was shouting orders in Russian. Return fire came in precise 3-round bursts, professional, controlled. Luca's people. He'd come. Relief and terror hit simultaneously. She needed to find him, needed to... A hand clamped over her mouth from behind. Aria thrashed, tried to scream. The hand tightened, cutting off air. Stop. The voice was familiar, female. It's me. The hand released. Aria spun. Sienna stood there, face smudged with soot, tactical vest scarred with bullet impacts, very much alive. I thought you were dead. The explosion takes more than that. Sienna grabbed Aria's wrists, produced a knife, sawed through the zip ties. Where's your friend? They took him. Volkov said, her voice cracked. He screamed, I don't know where. Focus. We need to move. I'm not leaving without Marcus. Then we find him fast. Stay behind me. Don't make noise. If I tell you to run, you run. Clear? Aria nodded. They moved deeper into the warehouse, Sienna leading with her weapon raised. The firefight was concentrated near the main entrance, Luca's team pushing in, Volkov's people trying to hold the line, which meant the back would be less defended. They found Marcus in what looked like a maintenance room. He was slumped in a metal chair, hands still bound, face a mess of blood and bruising, but breathing, definitely breathing. Marcus? Aria rushed forward, dropped to her knees beside him. Oh God, Marcus, can you hear me? His eyes fluttered open, focused slowly. Aria? I'm here. I'm here. We're getting you out. Sienna was already cutting his restraints. Can you walk? Yeah, I think so. He tried to stand, his legs buckled. Aria caught him, got an arm around his waist. He was heavier than he looked, all dead weight and trembling muscles. Back exit, Sienna said. 200 feet, can you make it? Do I have a choice? Not really. They started moving, slowly. Marcus leaning on Aria leaning on willpower she didn't know she had. Sienna led them through a maze of corridors and storage rooms, weapons sweeping corners, every muscle coiled for violence. They were almost to the exit when Volkov stepped out of the shadows. He had a gun pointed directly at Aria's head. Going somewhere! Sienna's weapon came up instantly. Mexican standoff, 10 feet between them, no cover. Put it down, Volkov said pleasantly, or I paint the wall with her brain. You shoot her? I shoot you, Sienna replied. Flat, factual. True, but I'm willing to die to make a point, are you? The question hung in the air. Aria could feel Marcus shaking against her side, could hear the firefight still raging in the distance, could see the absolute certainty in Volkov's eyes. He was going to shoot. Wait! The word came out before Aria could stop it. Wait, please! Aria, shut up, Sienna said. I'll stay. Whatever you want. Just let them go. Volkov's smile widened. How noble. But no, I don't need you cooperative. I need you dead. Luca refused my terms, so now I send him a message he can't ignore. His finger tightened on the trigger. Sienna fired first. The shot was perfect. Center mass, textbook. Volkov staggered back, red blooming across his chest. But he didn't go down, and his gun was still up. He fired. The world went sideways. Aria didn't feel the impact, just sudden heat in her shoulder, then her legs giving out. She hit the floor hard, Marcus falling with her in a tangle of limbs. Sienna fired again. And again. Volkov finally went down, weapon clattering from his hand. Then Sienna was beside them, hands on Aria's shoulder, pressure that sent white-hot agony through her entire nervous system. Fuck. Okay, you're okay. It went through clean. Marcus. Aria's voice sounded far away. Is Marcus? I'm fine. He was right there, face sheet white, hands hovering uselessly. Jesus Christ, Aria, you're bleeding. Flesh wound, Sienna said, but her jaw was tight. We need to move, now. She hauled Aria up. The world spun, grayed at the edges. Aria's shoulder was screaming, so was someone else. Might have been her. They stumbled toward the exit, burst through into an alley that smelled like garbage and salvation. A van was idling 20 feet away, back doors open. Reeves stood beside it, weapon raised, scanning for threats. Go, go, go! They piled in. Marcus first, then Aria. Sienna practically throwing her into the van before jumping in behind. Reeves slammed the doors and the vehicle peeled out before anyone had their balance. Aria lay on the floor staring at the ceiling, hand pressed to her shoulder, Blood seeped between her fingers. Too much blood. Or maybe not enough. She couldn't tell. "Where's Luca?" she asked. Or tried to. The words came out slurred. "Cleaning up," Sienna said. She was doing something to Aria's shoulder, packing the wound, wrapping it. Each touch was agony. "Stay with me. Eyes open. Tired. Too bad. Open." Aria forced her eyes open, focused on Marcus's face hovering above her, tears streaming down his cheeks. "You're an idiot," he said, voice breaking. "You know that?" "Yeah. You could have died." "Didn't. You got shot for me." "You're welcome." His laugh was watery, broken. "I hate you so much right now." "Love you too." The van swerved hard. Something clattered in the back. Sienna cursed, steadied Aria before she could roll. "How much further?" Reeves called from the front. 10 minutes? She gonna make it? If she stops talking. "Not likely," Aria mumbled. Sienna's hand pressed harder on the wound. Fresh agony. "Then bleed quieter." The world was getting fuzzy around the edges. Aria tried to focus, failed. Her eyes kept wanting to close. "Stay awake," Sienna ordered. "Trying. Try harder." Somewhere in the distance, sirens wailed, getting closer or moving away, impossible to tell. The van turned again, slowed, stopped. The back doors opened. Luca was there. He looked like he'd walked through hell, clothes torn, blood on his hands and face, expression stark with something that might have been fear if Luca Moretti was capable of fear. His eyes found Aria, went very, very dark. "How bad?" His voice was hoarse. "Through and through," Sienna reported. "She's stable, but she needs proper medical." Luca climbed into the van, knelt beside Aria. His hand found her face, touched so gently it made her chest ache. "Hey," she whispered. "Hey yourself." He was checking the wound, fingers careful, expression shuddered. "You got shot." "Little bit. I told you to stay put." "Volkov took Marcus." "So you decided to mount a rescue?" Sienna helped. "Sienna has training. You have a death wish." But his hand was still on her face, thumb brushing her cheekbone. "You could have died." "But I didn't." She tried to smile, failed. "You came." "Of course I came." "Volkov said you wouldn't, said you'd cut your losses." Something shifted in his expression. "Volkov was an idiot. He's dead now." "Good." Luca scooped her up, careful of her shoulder but absolute in his grip, and carried her out of the van. They were in another warehouse district, industrial buildings stretching in every direction. A different van waited, this one cleaner, medical supplies visible through the open doors. A woman in scrubs was already setting up, IV bags, monitors, things that looked expensive and vaguely terrifying. "Gunshot wound through and through, right shoulder," Sienna was reporting. "Minimal bone involvement, but she's lost blood." The medical woman nodded, already moving. "Get her inside." Luca set Aria down on a gurney. She grabbed his hand before he could step away. "Don't leave." "I'm not going anywhere." "Promise?" His jaw was tight. "I don't make—" "Luca, promise." For a long moment he just looked at her. Then, "I promise." The medical woman was cutting away Aria's shirt, exposing the wound. Aria tried not to look, failed. The entry wound was small, just a neat hole punched through flesh. The exit wound was messier. "This is going to hurt," the woman said. "Everything hurts. It's about to hurt more." She wasn't lying. The next 20 minutes were a blur of agony, cleaning the wound, checking for fragments, stitching entry and exit both. Aria bit down on a leather strap and tried not to scream. Luca held her hand the entire time, grip steady even when hers was shaking apart. When it was finally over, she was bandaged and IV'd and floating on whatever painkiller they'd given her. "She needs rest," the medical woman said. "No strenuous activity for at least a week. The stitches need to stay dry." "Understood," Luca said. "I'll check on her tomorrow. If she develops a fever or the wound shows signs of infection, I'll call." The woman packed up and disappeared, leaving just Aria, Luca, and the hum of medical equipment. Marcus appeared in the doorway, still bruised but cleaned up, moving gingerly. "She okay?" "She will be," Luca said. "And Volkov?" "Dead." Marcus nodded slowly, looked at Aria. "I'm going to head out. Let you rest. Marcus, wait. It's okay. We'll talk tomorrow. He managed a smile. Try not to get shot again. No promises. He left, which meant it was just her and Luca in the dim warehouse space, surrounded by the wreckage of the last 6 hours. I'm sorry, Luca said finally, for all of this. For bringing you into my world, for... Stop. Aria, I mean it. Stop apologizing. She shifted, winced at the pull on her stitches. I made my choice. I knew what you were, what this was. You couldn't have known. I knew enough. She met his eyes. And I'd make the same choice again. He looked at her like she'd just said something in a language he didn't speak. You got shot because of me. I got shot because Volkov was a psychopath. That's not your fault. Everything is my fault. Derek, Marcus, you. His voice was raw. Everyone I touch ends up bleeding. That's dramatic. It's true. No, it's guilt, which is different. She tried to sit up more, failed, settled for reaching for his hand. Luca, look at me. He did, and the expression on his face broke her heart. I don't regret this, she said. Any of it, even the getting shot part, because for the first time in 2 years, I feel real, like I matter, like I'm... You are. He moved closer, both hands cupping her face now. You matter. More than you should. More than is safe. For who? You or me? Both, she smiled. Then I guess we're both fucked. His laugh was broken. Yeah, we are. He kissed her, soft, careful, like she was made of glass and he was terrified of breaking her. When he pulled back, his forehead rested against hers. I need to tell you something, he said quietly. Okay. And you're going to hate me for it. Her stomach dropped. Luca? I knew. The words hung in the air between them. Knew what? He pulled back, met her eyes, and the guilt there was devastating. I knew your phone was compromised 3 weeks ago. Sienna flagged it during a routine security sweep. Aria's blood went cold. What? I knew someone was listening. I just didn't know who or how deep it went. 3 weeks. Her voice was flat. You knew for 3 weeks and you didn't tell me. I was trying to trace it back to the source. Figure out who planted the malware before Before you what? Before you warned me that every conversation I had was being monitored? She tried to sit up. Pain screamed through her shoulder, but she ignored it. Marcus could have died. Derek did die. And you knew... I didn't know about Derek. That wasn't... But you knew enough to warn me. Her voice cracked. Rose. You could have told me to be careful, to watch what I said. Instead, you let me walk around thinking I was safe when I was trying to protect you. By lying to me? By controlling the information until I understood the full scope of the threat. That's not your decision to make. She was shaking now, rage and betrayal and painkillers making her voice unsteady. You don't get to decide what I know about my own life. In my world, information is power, and you didn't have the training to... So you treated me like a child, like someone who couldn't handle the truth. That's not... It's exactly what you did. Tears burned her eyes. She refused to let them fall. You talk about wanting something real, about me being the first honest thing in your world, but you're just like Derek, making decisions for me, deciding what I can handle. Luca flinched like she'd hit him. That's not fair. No, what's not fair is finding out the man I... She stopped, swallowed the word. The man I trusted has been lying to me for weeks. I was trying to keep you safe. By using me as bait? Because that's what this was, wasn't it? The pieces were clicking together now. Horrible. Inevitable. You knew someone was listening, so you kept feeding them information through me, kept our relationship visible so whoever was watching would... No. His voice was sharp. That's not what happened. Then what did happen? He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was careful. Too careful. I suspected there was a leak. Someone inside my organization feeding information to Volkov. When Sienna flagged your phone, I thought... He stopped. You thought what? I thought maybe you were the leak. The words hit like a physical blow. Aria stared at him, waiting for the punchline, the explanation, something to make this make sense. Nothing came. You thought I was working for Volkov. For about 48 hours, yes. 48. She couldn't breathe. You thought I was a spy. You appeared out of nowhere, got close to me incredibly fast, had access to my schedule, my meetings, because you hired me. And that timing was convenient. Too convenient. He ran a hand through his hair. I had to be sure. So you what? Tested me? Fed me false information to see if I'd pass it along? His silence was answer enough. Oh my God. The betrayal was complete now. Total. You played me. I vetted you. Like I vet everyone. I'm not everyone. Her voice broke. I sent you a photo by mistake and you made me care about you, made me think. She stopped. Couldn't finish. Made you think what? That you saw me. Actually saw me. Not as a tool or a weapon or a fucking spy, but as a person. The tears were falling now. She couldn't stop them. But you were just using me from the beginning. It's not true. Isn't it? You said it yourself. Real is rare in your world. So rare you can't even recognize it when it's right in front of you. Aria, get out. Let me explain. There's nothing to explain. She turned her face away, couldn't look at him anymore. You're exactly what Volkov said you were. A man who uses people until they're no longer useful. And I was stupid enough to think I was different. You are different. Prove it. Tell me one thing about us that wasn't calculated. One moment that wasn't part of your grand plan to figure out if I was trying to destroy you. He was quiet. Of course he was quiet. That's what I thought. She closed her eyes. Get out, Luca, and don't come back. Aria, please. I said get out. The monitors beside her beeped frantically, her heart rate spiking, blood pressure jumping. The medical woman appeared from wherever she'd been waiting. You need to leave, she said to Luca. Firm? Professional. You're agitating her. For a moment, Aria thought he'd refuse, thought he'd stay and fight and force her to hear whatever justification he'd constructed. Instead, he stood, looked at her one last time with an expression she couldn't read and didn't want to. Then, he was gone. The medical woman adjusted Aria's IV. You should rest. I should have stayed in the Bronx. Probably, but here we are. She dimmed the lights. Sleep. Things always look different in the morning. Aria doubted that, but the painkillers were dragging her under, and fighting them seemed like more effort than she had left. She closed her eyes, dreamed of warehouse fires and wrong numbers, and a man whose eyes she'd never been able to read. Tits. Morning came too fast and too bright. Aria woke to find Sienna sitting in the corner, laptop open, looking like she hadn't slept. You're awake. Aria's shoulder throbbed. Her mouth tasted like copper. Unfortunately. How do you feel? Like I got shot. Accurate. Sienna closed her laptop. We need to talk. If this is about Luca, it's about Jennifer. That got Aria's attention. She shifted carefully, trying to sit up without pulling her stitches. What about her? We found her. She's been very cooperative. Cooperative how? Telling us everything about Volkov's operation, drop sites, contact protocols, how deep the surveillance went. Sienna's expression was grim. It's worse than we thought. How worse? They had cameras in your apartment. Aria's stomach turned. What? Installed 8 months ago. Before you even met Luca. They'd been watching you since you started at the law firm. 8 months. Before the breakup. Before the wrong number. Before everything. Why? Because Derek worked for them. The world tilted. That's impossible. Derek was in marketing. He sold software. He laundered money through his company's accounts, small amounts, untraceable. Volkov recruited him 2 years ago. 2 years. The entire length of their relationship. Aria couldn't breathe, couldn't process. The man she'd loved, the man she'd tried to fix herself for, had been working for Volkov the entire time. So when he cheated, orders. They needed him single, mobile, and they needed you devastated enough to be vulnerable. Vulnerable to what? Sienna was quiet for a long moment. Then, to Luca. The pieces clicked together, horrible, perfect. The wrong number wasn't wrong. No. They sent me Luca's number, made me think, her voice cracked, made me think it was an accident. You were the perfect access point. Young, unknown, exactly the kind of person Luca would find interesting because you seemed real. Sienna's expression was almost sympathetic. They played both of you. Aria's hands were shaking. Does Luca know? I told him an hour ago. And? And he's in his office destroying furniture. Despite everything, the betrayal, the lies, the gunshot wound currently screaming in her shoulder, Aria almost laughed. So none of it was real, not Derek, not the breakup, not the photo. She looked at Sienna. Not me and Luca. The setup wasn't real. What you felt was. How would you know? Because I've worked for Luca for 4 years, and I've never seen him lose control. Not once. Until you. Sienna leaned forward. He shot Volkov 7 times. 3 bullets would have done it. He used 7. That's not professional. That's personal. He lied to me. He suspected you for 48 hours, then spent 3 weeks trying to protect you while dismantling Volkov's entire operation. That's not using you. That's what? Sienna was quiet. Then, that's love. Messy and paranoid and completely impractical. But love. Aria wanted to argue, wanted to hold on to the anger because anger was easier than the alternative, but she was so tired of being angry. Where is he now? His office, waiting to see if you'll talk to him. And if I don't? Then he'll wait longer. Luca's patient when he wants something. I'm not something to be wanted. No. You're someone to be worth it. Sienna stood. But that's your call to make. She left. Aria sat in the silence, surrounded by medical equipment and the ruins of everything she thought she knew. Derek had never loved her, had been playing a role from day one. Luca had suspected her, tested her, lied to her. And somehow, impossibly, both things were true. She'd been used, and she'd been real. The question was which truth mattered more. She looked at her bandaged shoulder, thought about Marcus's face when they dragged him away, thought about Sienna dying in an explosion, except she hadn't died, had she? Had probably known the building was rigged and gotten out before the blast. Thought about Luca's hands on her face, the way he'd kissed her like she was the only thing holding him to earth. I don't make promises I can't keep. But he'd promised anyway. Aria stood. The world swayed. She steadied herself against the gurney, waiting for her legs to remember how to work. Then she walked out to find him. Eat. Luca's office was on the top floor of a building that probably didn't exist on any official record. Aria took the elevator up, each floor making her shoulder throb harder. Sienna had been right about the furniture. The office looked like a tornado had hit it. Desk overturned, chair in pieces, papers scattered everywhere. And in the middle of the destruction, Luca stood at the window, hands braced against the glass, looking out at a city that had never given him anything he didn't have to take. He didn't turn when she entered. You should be resting, he said. You should stop destroying things. I'm angry. I noticed. He finally turned, looked at her, and the rawness in his expression nearly broke her. Sienna told you. Yeah. All of it? Yeah. He nodded slowly. So now you know you were a setup from the beginning. Derek, the photo, everything. They played us both. I know. And I made it worse. By suspecting you. By lying. His hands clenched into fists. You were right. I am exactly what Volkov said. Someone who uses people. Stop. It's true. It's guilt and self-pity, and I don't have the energy for either. She moved closer. Each step hurt, but she needed to be closer. You suspected me for 2 days. Then you spent weeks trying to keep me safe. That's not using me. I should have told you the truth. Probably. But you were scared. She stopped in front of him, close enough to see the exhaustion in his eyes. You're not used to caring about people, so when you started caring about me, you didn't know how to handle it. That's not an excuse. No, it's an explanation. There's a difference. He looked at her like she was something he couldn't quite believe existed. Why are you here, Aria? Because I'm tired of being angry, and because, she took a breath, because Sienna's right. You're a mess, paranoid and controlling and completely impractical. But you came for me. Even when it was a trap, Even when you knew it might get you killed. Of course I did. Why? The question hung between them. Luca's hands came up, cupped her face the way they had in the van, gentle, careful. Because losing you would be worse than dying. It wasn't poetry. Wasn't romance. It was raw and honest and completely him. That's extremely dramatic, she whispered. I'm an extremely dramatic person. I've noticed. He smiled, actually smiled. Are we okay? I don't know. Ask me in a week when my shoulder stops screaming. Fair. She leaned into him. Let him hold her, careful of her wound, solid and steady. For a moment they just stood there, surrounded by destruction, holding on to each other like lifelines. What happens now? She asked finally. Now? We clean up the mess. Dismantle what's left of Volkov's operation. Make sure no one else tries something this stupid. And us? That's up to you. She pulled back enough to see his face. I want honesty. Complete honesty. No more lies. No more tests. Done. And therapy. We both need so much therapy. His laugh was startled. Probably. And you have to stop breaking furniture when you're angry. It's expensive and dramatic. I'll try. Trying isn't good enough. Then I'll succeed. His expression sobered. Anything else? Yeah. She met his eyes. Tell me you love me. He went very still. Aria, I know you don't say it. I know it's not how you operate, but I need to hear it, just once. For a long moment, he just looked at her. Then, I love you. 3 words. Simple. Devastating. You're sure? Because last time someone said that to me, they were lying the entire... What? I love you, he said again, firmer. I didn't want to. It's inconvenient and dangerous and makes me weak. But I love you anyway. That's the worst love confession I've ever heard. It's the only one I've got. She kissed him, ignored the way it pulled her stitches, ignored the pain, ignored everything except the feeling of his mouth on hers and his hands holding her like she was the only thing keeping him anchored. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Aria rested her forehead against his. We're completely insane, she whispered. Yeah. This is never going to work. Probably not. We're going to drive each other crazy. Definitely. She smiled against his mouth. Good. I'm tired of saying anyway. He kissed her again. And somewhere in the ruins of Luca Moretti's office, surrounded by broken furniture and impossible choices, Aria Velez decided that maybe, just maybe, being real was worth the risk of getting destroyed, even if it meant walking through fire to prove it. But fire, as it turned out, was exactly what was coming. Because 3 floors below, in a server room no one but Sienna knew existed, a program finished running. It had been installed 8 months ago, hidden in Jennifer's laptop, designed to activate the moment Volkov's vital signs flatlined. And now, with its creator dead, the program executed its final command. Every file, every transaction, every piece of evidence connecting Luca Moretti to his empire, sent simultaneously to the FBI, the NYPD, and 3 major news outlets. A timer appeared on screen, counting down from 24 hours. The end of Luca Moretti's world, and neither he nor Aria had any idea it was coming. Sienna found them 20 minutes later. They were still in Luca's office, Aria sitting on the overturned desk, Luca standing close enough that their knees touched, both of them pretending the world outside didn't exist. It had been 20 minutes of stolen normalcy, of breathing without gunfire, of believing, however briefly, that the worst was over. Sienna's face when she walked in told them otherwise. We have a problem. Luca's entire body went rigid. What kind? The kind where we have approximately 23 hours before every federal agency in the tri-state area shows up with warrants. The words landed like grenades. Aria watched Luca's expression shift, saw the brief flash of panic before control slammed back into place. Explain. Sienna crossed to the windows, pulled the blinds shut with sharp, economical movements. Volkov had a failsafe. Dead man's switch embedded in Jennifer's laptop. The moment his heart stopped, it triggered a data dump. What data? Everything. Financial records, transaction logs, communications, names, 8 years worth of evidence documenting every illegal operation you've ever run. She turned to face them. It went to the FBI, NYPD, and the New York Times simultaneously, sent from an encrypted server in Moldova that we can't trace and can't shut down. Luca was very still, the kind of still that came before violence. When? 47 minutes ago. And you're just telling me now? I was confirming the scope, making sure it wasn't a bluff. Sienna's jaw was tight. It's not a bluff. They have everything, Luca. Bank accounts, shell corporations, shipping manifests, client lists, enough to put you away for 3 consecutive lifetimes. Aria's stomach dropped. She watched Luca process the information, saw his mind racing through scenarios, calculating odds, assessing damage. How long before they move? FBI will need time to verify authenticity, cross-reference sources, build a case. Sienna pulled out her phone, showed him a screen Aria couldn't see. Best guess, 24 hours, maybe less. And the media? The Times has their investigative team on it. They'll want confirmation before they publish, but... She paused. They're calling it the biggest organized crime story since Gotti. Luca's laugh was sharp, humorless. Of course they are. Aria found her voice. So what do we do? Both of them looked at her like they'd forgotten she was there. We? Luca's voice was carefully neutral. There's no we in this, Aria. This is don't. She slid off the desk, ignored the scream from her shoulder. Don't you dare try to protect me by pushing me out. I'm already in this. You're a victim. They'll see that. Your phone was compromised. You were manipulated. I work for you. I've been working for you for 3 months. I've seen things, heard things. Nothing that ties you to actual criminal activity. Are you sure? Because I answered your phones, scheduled your meetings. I was there when... She stopped. Because she had been there, had heard names, seen faces, made calls she probably shouldn't have made. Sienna was watching her with something like sympathy. Your best play is to cooperate. Tell them everything. Cut a deal. Testify against Luca? It would keep you out of prison. Aria looked at Luca. Saw his expression, carefully blank, giving her an out, giving her permission to save herself. No. Arias, he started. I said no. I'm not testifying. I'm not cooperating. She took a breath. I'm staying. That's insane. You keep saying that like it's going to change my mind. They'll charge you as an accessory, conspiracy. You could get 10 years. Then we'd better make sure they don't catch us. Sienna made a sound that might have been a laugh. There's no outrunning this. Not with this much evidence. Then we destroy the evidence, Aria said. It's already distributed. Multiple servers, multiple agencies. We can't... So we run, leave the country, disappear. Luca was shaking his head. I'm not running. Why not? Because this is my city, my empire. I'm not handing it over because Volkov had a tantrum from beyond the grave. Your empire doesn't matter if you're in prison. And running doesn't matter if I'm dead. He moved to the window, stared out at the skyline like he could hold it through will alone. Every organization I've ever competed with will see this as an opportunity. They'll move on my territory the second I show weakness. If I run, I'm admitting I'm weak. You're not weak, you're pragmatic. In this world, there's no difference. Aria wanted to scream, wanted to shake him until he understood that pride wasn't worth dying for. But she could see it in the set of his shoulders. This wasn't negotiable. Then what's the plan? She asked quietly. Luca turned back. Sienna, how many of our people are compromised by the leak? Hard to say. Jennifer had access to personnel files, but she was already typing on her phone. I can have a list in an hour. Do it. Anyone who might flip when the feds come knocking gets cut loose. Today. That's half our operation. Then we run lean. He started pacing, the wheels turning. What about the offshore accounts? Clean. They're buried under so many shell corporations it would take the feds months to trace them. Liquidate everything. Move it somewhere they can't freeze. We're talking about $300 million. Moving that much money without triggering alerts? I don't care what it triggers. We have 23 hours. Make it happen. Sienna nodded, disappeared into her phone, firing off texts faster than Aria could track. Luca turned to Aria. You need to leave. We already had this conversation. I'm not trying to protect you. I'm trying to give you a choice. He crossed to her, hands on her shoulders, careful of her wound. If you stay, you're complicit. Not just morally, legally. The feds will come after you with everything they have. I know. You'll lose your life, your freedom, any chance at normal. Normal is overrated. Aria, Luca, I already made my choice. I'm staying. He looked at her for a long moment, then pulled her against him, forehead to forehead, breathing the same air. You're insane, he whispered. Yeah, I know. Sienna cleared her throat. Hate to interrupt, but we have incoming. They broke apart. Luca's expression was already shifting back to business. Who? Kozlov's people. 3 cars, coming up from Brighton Beach. How many? At least a dozen, maybe more. Luca cursed. They're moving fast. They know about the leak. Everyone knows by now. The whole underworld is watching to see if you're vulnerable. And Kozlov wants to test it. Looks like. Aria's heart was hammering. Who's Kozlov? Competition, Luca said shortly. Russian, ambitious, been waiting for an opening like this for years. And now he's got one. Yeah. Luca was already moving, pulling a gun from a drawer that shouldn't have existed in a desk that was currently on its side. Sienna, get everyone we can trust to the secondary location. Move the servers. Anything that can't be encrypted gets burned. On it. And send word to the other boroughs. Anyone who wants to make a move tonight, I'm ready. Sienna paused. That's a declaration of war. We're already at war. I'm just making it official. She nodded and disappeared. Luca checked the gun, magazine full, round-chambered, then looked at Aria. You're going with Sienna. Like hell. This isn't a debate. You're right. It's not. She straightened despite the pain screaming through her shoulder. I'm not leaving you. Kozlov's men are coming here to kill me. Or worse, drag me somewhere public where the feds can find me. Either way, this is about to get very ugly very fast. Then I guess it's good I've already been shot today. Got the hard part out of the way. His expression cracked, just for a second. You're going to get yourself killed. So are you. At least we'll go together. That's not romantic. That's stupid. Love makes you stupid. You said so yourself. He stared at her, then impossibly smiled. You're quoting me now? Seemed relevant. The elevator dinged. They both spun toward the sound. The elevator shouldn't have been accessible. Luca's private car, keyed to his thumbprint. The doors slid open. Reeves stepped out, weapon raised, face grim. They're in the building, overrode security on the ground floor. We've got maybe 3 minutes. How many floors? All of them. They're sweeping from the bottom up. Luca cursed. Exits? Compromised. They've got the garage, the loading dock, and the fire stairs covered. Roof? Only way out. Luca grabbed Aria's hand. Move. They ran. Down a hallway Aria had never seen, through a door marked authorized personnel only, up a narrow stairwell that smelled like rust and fear. Each step sent fire through her shoulder. She bit down on the pain, focused on putting one foot in front of the other. Behind them, voices echoed, boots on concrete, men shouting in Russian. They burst onto the roof. Night air hit Aria's face, cold and sharp. The city sprawled below them, lights and noise and a million people who had no idea the world was ending 40 stories above their heads. Now what? She gasped. Luca was already moving to the edge, looking over. We jump. I'm sorry, what? He pointed. Next building, 20 feet, flat roof. We can make it. Aria looked at the gap. 20 feet might as well have been a mile. That's insane. You keep saying that like it changes anything. Luca, I got shot 8 hours ago. I can barely walk, much less, then I'll carry you. That's not... The roof door exploded open. 6 men poured through, weapons raised, professional, coordinated, Kozlov's best. The one in front, shaved head, scar bisecting his left eyebrow, smiled. Moretti, going somewhere? Luca's hand tightened on his gun. Anatoly, wasn't expecting a visit. No? Word is you're having a bad day. Thought I'd come help make it worse. Anatoly's eyes flicked to Aria. And you brought your secretary. How thoughtful. She's not part of this. She works for you. That makes her part of it. He gestured with his gun. Drop the weapon. Both of you. Hands where I can see them. Luca's jaw was tight. For a moment, Aria thought he'd refuse, thought he'd go down fighting right here. Instead, he set his gun on the ground, stepped away from it. Aria didn't have a weapon, just raised her hands slowly, trying not to scream as the movement pulled her stitches. Anatoly approached, kicked Luca's gun away. Kozlov sends his regards, says to tell you, how did he put it, that empires built on sand wash away with the tide. Poetic. Tell him I said to go fuck himself. Anatoly's backhand was casual, brutal. Luca's head snapped sideways, blood spraying from split lips. Luca! Aria lunged forward. One of the other men grabbed her, yanked her back hard enough that her shoulder screamed. She bit down on a cry, vision whiting out. Luca's eyes were murderous. Touch her again, and You'll what? You're unarmed, surrounded. The FBI is coming for you, and every organization in the city is circling like sharks. You have no leverage. I have 20 years of dirt on every criminal enterprise in New York, including Kozlov. Had. Past tense. Anatoly smiled. That data dump didn't just expose you. It exposed everyone you've ever worked with, every favor, every deal. Kozlov's already burning his connections to you. By morning, you'll be a ghost. Luca was bleeding from his mouth, but his voice was steady. So why not just kill me? Because Kozlov wants to watch you burn first, wants you to see everything you built turn to ash before you die. He pulled out zip ties. Hands, now. For a second, Aria thought Luca would refuse, would go for Anatoly's throat with his bare hands and damn the consequences. Instead, he held out his wrists. Anatoly secured them, tight enough to cut off circulation, then turned to Aria. Her too. She's injured. Don't care. The man holding her wrenched her arms behind her back. Aria's scream finally broke free as her shoulder tore. White-hot agony. The world grayed. When she could see again, she was on her knees, zip-tied and gasping, warm wetness spreading across her bandage. Luca was staring at her with an expression that promised death. I'm going to kill all of you. Eventually, but first, Anatoly gestured to his men. We're taking a ride. They were hauled to their feet. Aria's legs barely held her. The man gripping her arm was the only thing keeping her upright. They dragged them back through the roof door, down the stairs. Aria counted floors through waves of pain. 40. 35. 30. The elevator was waiting on the 20th floor. They were shoved inside. Anatoly hit the button for the garage. The descent felt eternal. Luca's eyes found hers across the cramped space. He didn't say anything, didn't need to. She could read it in his face, the guilt, the rage, the desperate calculation of a man trying to find an impossible way out. The elevator opened onto the parking garage. More men waited. And in the center of the space, leaning against a black Mercedes like he owned the world, was a man Aria had never seen but instantly recognized. Viktor Kozlov. He was younger than she'd expected, maybe 40, well-dressed, the kind of face that belonged in boardrooms. Nothing about him screamed criminal, which made him more terrifying than Volkov had ever been. Luca? His accent was slight, almost charming. Thank you for accepting my invitation. Didn't realize I had a choice. We always have choices. Yours are just narrower than usual. Kozlov pushed off the car, approached with the casual confidence of a man who knew he'd already won. I've been waiting for this moment for a long time. Then you're easily entertained. Kozlov's smile was sharp, still defiant. I admire that. Stupid, but admirable. He circled them slowly. Do you know what you cost me? Over the years. Contracts. Territory. Respect. You've been a thorn in my side since I arrived in this city. Happy to help. But now, Kozlov gestured broadly. Now the great Luca Moretti is finished. Your empire is falling, the feds are coming, and I'm going to make sure you live long enough to watch it all burn before I put a bullet in your brain. Luca's expression didn't change. Big talk for a man who needed 6 guys to capture an unarmed target. Caution, not fear. I've seen what you're capable of. Then you should run. Kozlov laughed. Actually laughed. Still making threats? You're zip-tied in my garage surrounded by my men with nowhere to go. What exactly are you going to do? Survive. Like I always do. The confidence in Luca's voice was absolute, unshakable, and for a brief, impossible moment, Aria almost believed him. Kozlov's smile faded. We'll see. Take them to the... An explosion rocked the building. Not close, distant, but powerful enough to rattle the concrete pillars and set off car alarms across the garage. Everyone froze. Kozlov's phone rang. He answered, listened, his expression darkening. When? How many? Pause. All of them? He hung up. Looked at Luca with something like respect. You called in your allies. I called in everyone, every favor, every organization that owes me, every criminal enterprise in this city that doesn't want to see a power vacuum. Luca's smile was cold. You wanted war, Victor? You've got it. Another explosion, closer this time. The lights flickered. Kozlov's men were getting nervous, hands tightening on weapons, eyes darting toward exits. It doesn't matter, Kozlov said, but his voice had lost its certainty. Even if you survive tonight, the feds can't touch me if they can't find me. And they won't find me. Because after tonight, Luca Moretti disappears. But my empire? He leaned forward despite the zip ties. My empire lives on, through people you'll never see coming. Gunfire erupted from the floors above. Close, getting closer. Kozlov made a decision. Kill them, both of them, now. Anatoly raised his weapon. The garage lights went out. Chaos exploded. Muzzle flashes lit the darkness in strobe light bursts. Men shouting, return fire from somewhere Aria couldn't see. Bullets sparking off concrete and metal. Someone slammed into her, knocked her down. Her head cracked against the floor. Stars burst across her vision. When she could see again, the emergency lights had kicked on, dim red glow painting everything in shades of hell. Bodies on the ground. Kozlov's men. Others she didn't recognize. The Mercedes was riddled with bullet holes, glass shattered, one tire hissing air. And in the center of it all, Luca stood over Anatoly's unconscious body, zip ties broken, gun in hand. He'd somehow freed himself, somehow turned the chaos into opportunity. Their eyes met across the carnage. He crossed to her in 3 strides, used Anatoly's knife to cut her restraints. Can you walk? I think so. Good. Because we're running. He pulled her up. The world spun. She caught herself against his shoulder, felt him steady her automatically. Where's Kozlov? Gone. Ran when the shooting started. Your people? Here. Somewhere. He was already moving, pulling her toward an exit. Sienna's creating diversions across the city. Every organization I've ever worked with is hitting Kozlov's operation simultaneously. He can't respond to all of it. So we use the chaos to disappear. Exactly. They burst out of the garage into an alley that smelled like garbage and freedom. A car was waiting, engine running, driver hidden behind tinted glass. Luca pulled the door open, shoved Aria inside, climbed in after her. The car peeled out before the door fully closed. Aria collapsed against the seat, shoulder screaming, vision blurring. Where are we going? Safe house, outside the city. Sienna's meeting us there with everything we need. And then? Then we make them believe I'm dead. She turned to look at him. His face was bloody, bruised, but alive. So alive. How? I have a body. Similar build, DNA will be close enough to fool initial testing. By the time they figure out it's not me, I'll be gone. That's insane. I know. He looked at her. Last chance, Aria. Once we cross this line, there's no coming back. You'll be a fugitive. Can't contact your family, can't use your real name. Everything you were disappears. She thought about her apartment with its water-stained ceiling, her job answering phones for people who yelled about lunch orders, her mother who called once a month to ask when she was getting married, Marcus, who would understand, Derek, who'd never been real anyway. I'm already gone, she said. Luca's hand found hers, squeezed. Okay. They drove in silence through streets that blurred into highways into darkness. The driver, Reeves, Aria realized, didn't speak, just drove with the kind of focus that said he'd done this before. Aria's phone buzzed. She pulled it out, stared at the screen. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, almost threw the phone out the window, but something made her swipe to accept. Hello? Static. Then a voice she recognized. Ms. Velez, this is Special Agent Garrison, FBI. We need to talk about Luca Moretti. Her blood went cold. I don't know what you're... We know you're with him. We have eyes on your current location, the car, the driver, everything. Pause. Pull over, and this goes easier for both of you. Aria looked at Luca, saw her own horror reflected in his eyes. How? Your phone. We activated the GPS remotely 20 minutes ago. Been tracking you since you left the garage. Garrison's voice was almost sympathetic. It's over, Ms. Velez. Tell Moretti to stop the car. Aria looked at the phone in her hand, at the little icon in the corner showing her exact location, updating in real time. They'd been running for nothing. The FBI had been following them the entire time. Luca reached for the phone. Aria threw it out the window. It shattered on the highway behind them, sparks and plastic fragmenting into the dark. Won't matter, Luca said quietly. They know where we're going. Then we change direction. And go where? They've had 20 minutes to set up. There's probably roadblocks on every highway out of the city. So we ditch the car, steal another one. And then what? Run forever? They'll find us eventually. Aria's chest was tight. So we're just giving up? I'm being realistic. Since when? He actually smiled. Since I realized I don't want to spend the rest of your life running. My life? You can still walk away. Tell them I forced you, held you hostage. They'll believe it. I'm not... Aria, listen to me. He turned to face her fully. I've been running from consequences my entire life. Building empires on lies, buying loyalty, threatening enemies. I thought that made me powerful, but real power? He touched her face. Real power is choosing to stop. You're not making sense. I know. But I'm done, Aria. Done running. Done pretending. If the FBI wants me, they can have me. But not you. You walk away clean. That's not... Red and blue lights exploded behind them. Ahead. Surrounding them from every direction. A voice over a megaphone. Pull over, now. Hands where we can see them. Reeves met Luca's eyes in the rearview mirror. Orders? For a long moment, Luca was quiet. Then, pull over. Luca? Aria started. It's over. He kissed her. Quick, desperate. Remember, you were a hostage. You didn't know anything. Stick to that story, and you'll be fine. I'm not leaving you to... You don't have a choice. The car stopped. Doors ripped open. Hands grabbed Aria, dragged her out onto pavement. She fought, screaming Luca's name, but there were too many of them. They threw her against a car, patted her down, cuffed her. 20 feet away, they were doing the same to Luca. 6 agents, guns drawn, shouting orders. He didn't fight. Just let them secure him. Let them push him to his knees. His eyes found hers across the chaos. And Aria saw something that terrified her more than any gun, any threat, any prison sentence. She saw surrender. An agent was reading him his rights. The words blurred. Aria's ears were ringing. This wasn't supposed to happen. They were supposed to disappear, supposed to build something new from the ashes. Instead, they were both in handcuffs while the empire burned. Luca Moretti, the lead agent said, you're under arrest for racketeering, money laundering, conspiracy to commit murder, and about 40 other charges we'll discuss downtown. They hauled him to his feet. Wait! Aria's voice cracked. Please, just let me... An agent pulled her away. Ma'am, you need to come with us. I didn't do anything. We'll sort that out at the field office. They were separating them, putting Luca in one vehicle, Aria in another. She twisted against the hands holding her. Luca! He looked back for just a second and mouthed 2 words. I'm sorry. Then they shoved him into the car and he was gone. Aria was pushed into a different vehicle, door slamming, engine starting. The FBI agent in the front seat was talking, but she couldn't hear him over the roaring in her ears. They drove toward the city, toward processing, toward the end of everything. And somewhere in the back of that FBI car, zip-tied and bleeding, Aria Velez realized that love wasn't just dangerous, it was fatal. And she'd walked into it with her eyes wide open. The FBI field office smelled like burnt coffee and fluorescent despair. Aria sat in an interrogation room that looked exactly like every cop show had promised. Gray walls, metal table bolted to the floor, mirror that was obviously one-way glass. Her shoulder throbbed beneath fresh bandages. They'd let a paramedic look at it after processing. Told her she was lucky the stitches had held. Lucky felt like the wrong word. She'd been here for 6 hours. Maybe 7. Time had stopped meaning anything around hour 3 when they'd taken her watch, along with everything else in her pockets. The door opened. A woman walked in. Late 40s, dark suit, the kind of face that had seen too much and stopped being surprised by human nature. She carried a folder thick enough to be a weapon and a coffee that smelled significantly better than whatever was brewing in the break room. "Miss Velez, I'm Special Agent Sarah Garrison." She sat across from Aria, set the folder down with deliberate weight. "We need to talk about Luca Moretti." Aria said nothing. They'd advised her she had the right to an attorney. She'd said she wanted one. They'd said one was coming. That had been 4 hours ago. "I know you're tired," Garrison continued. "I know you're hurt. I know this has been the worst night of your life. But I need you to understand something." She opened the folder, pulled out photos, crime scenes, bodies, evidence markers. "This is what Luca Moretti is responsible for. 23 murders we can prove. Probably twice that many we can't." Aria looked at the photos, made herself look, saw violence frozen in glossy 8x10 permanents. "He told me what he was," she said finally. Her voice was hoarse from screaming earlier. "Knew. Did you know he was planning to fake his death and flee the country?" "No." "Did you know about the offshore accounts, the money laundering through the Port Authority?" "No." "Did you know he was using your phone as a relay point to communicate with associates without detection?" Aria's head snapped up. "What?" Garrison pulled out another document. "Your phone. The one that was supposedly compromised by Volkov's people? It was. But Moretti knew about it 3 weeks ago. Instead of telling you, he used it. Fed false information through you to Volkov while conducting real business on encrypted channels you never saw." The words landed like body blows. "He told me," Aria whispered. "He told me he knew." "Did he tell you he was using you as a decoy? That every conversation you had with him near that phone was performance? Designed to make Volkov think he had better intelligence than he did?" "No." He hadn't told her that part. "Ms. Velez." Garrison's voice softened slightly. "I've been doing this job for 18 years. I've interviewed dozens of people like you, smart, capable people who got caught in the orbit of someone dangerous and convinced themselves it was love, and maybe it was. Maybe Luca Moretti is capable of love. But love doesn't erase the bodies, doesn't undo the crimes." Aria's throat was tight. "What do you want from me?" "The truth, all of it. What you knew, when you knew it, everything you did while working for Moretti. And if I cooperate, we can probably keep you out of prison, accessory charges, probation, maybe some community service. And if I don't," Garrison's expression hardened, "then we charge you as a co-conspirator, and you're looking at 10 to 15 years. Aria closed her eyes, tried to think through the exhaustion and pain and betrayal. Luca had used her, even after he claimed to love her, even after he'd promised honesty. He'd turned her into a weapon without her knowledge. But he'd also come for her. Walked into Volkov's trap. Killed a man who'd tortured Marcus, chosen to stop running when he could have disappeared. Which truth mattered more? "I want my lawyer," she said. Garrison sighed. "Ms. Velez, I want my lawyer, now." The agent gathered her photos. Stood. "You're making a mistake. Moretti isn't worth protecting." "Maybe not, but that's my mistake to make." Garrison left. The door locked behind her. Aria sat in the silence and wondered if she'd just destroyed her life for a man who'd been using her from the beginning. Gotz. The lawyer arrived 2 hours later. His name was David Chen, Marcus's older brother, corporate attorney who absolutely did not practice criminal law but showed up anyway because family. "You look like hell," he said, sitting across from her. "Thanks. You're really selling the whole lawyer thing." Despite everything, he smiled. "Marcus called me. Said you needed help. Didn't mention the whole organized crime aspect. It's been a complicated week." "No shit." He pulled out a legal pad. "Okay, talk to me. Everything. Don't leave anything out." So she did. Told him about the wrong number that wasn't wrong, about Luca and the restaurants and the job that pulled her into a world she didn't understand, about Derek and Volkov and getting shot in a warehouse while trying to save Marcus, about falling in love with a man who solved problems by making people disappear. David listened without interrupting. When she finished, he set down his pen and looked at her for a long moment. "You're in a lot of trouble," he said finally. "I know. The FBI has evidence you knowingly worked for a criminal enterprise, that you were present during meetings where illegal activity was discussed, that you helped coordinate operations. I answered phones." "You answered phones for Luca Moretti. The courts won't see a difference." He rubbed his face. "Best case scenario, we plea out. You testify against Moretti. Give them everything. They give you immunity or reduce charges." "I'm not testifying." Aria said, "I'm not." "Then you're going to prison. For a long time." Maybe Luca has the same choice, and maybe he makes the same decision. David was quiet. Then, "Marcus said you were different lately. Alive. I thought he meant you'd met someone nice, stable, maybe an accountant. I met someone who makes me feel real." Real isn't going to help when you're serving 10 years in federal prison. "No, but it means I'll know why I'm there." He studied her. "You really love him." "Yeah, I really do. Even though he's a criminal. Even though he used you. That one hurt, but even though," David sighed, gathered his papers. "Okay, I'll tell them you're not cooperating. But Aria, this is a mistake. One you can't take back. I know, but it's mine." He left. Aria sat alone again, waiting for whatever came next. Tech. What came next was transfer. They moved her to a holding facility in Lower Manhattan, concrete and steel and the smell of industrial cleaner failing to mask human misery. She was processed again, fingerprinted again, given orange scrubs that were too big and shoes that were too small. Then thrown into a cell with 3 other women who looked at her with the dead-eyed assessment of people who'd already lost everything and were calculating whether she had anything worth taking. She sat on the bottom bunk, stared at springs and graffiti carved into metal, tried not to think about Luca in a cell somewhere going through the same thing. Failed. First time? Aria looked up. The woman on the bunk across from her was maybe 30, face hard but not cruel. Track marks on her arms barely hidden by the long sleeves she'd somehow kept. "Yeah. What'd they get you for?" "Conspiracy, I think. It's complicated." "It always is." The woman lay back. "Name's Kelly." "Aria." "Well, Aria, welcome to hell. Food shit. Guards are worse. Try not to piss anyone off, and you might make it to trial alive." "Comforting," Kelly laughed. "Ain't here to comfort you, just stating facts." The lights went out at 10. Aria lay in the dark and listened to the sounds of the facility, crying from cells down the hall, arguments in languages she didn't know, the rhythmic clanging of pipes that would probably keep her awake all night. She thought about her apartment, her job, the life she'd had 3 months ago that had seemed so small and suffocating. Wondered if she'd trade it all back if she could. Decided, impossibly, that she wouldn't. 3 days passed. 3 days of bad food and worse sleep and interrogations that went nowhere because Aria kept saying the same thing, "I want my lawyer." On the 4th day, David came back. "They're offering a deal," he said. They were in a conference room this time, slightly less depressing than interrogation. Windows, at least, even if they looked out at other concrete buildings. "What kind of deal?" "Full immunity, witness protection, new identity, the works." He slid papers across the table. "In exchange for testimony against Moretti and anyone else in his organization you can identify." Aria didn't touch the papers. "And Luca?" "Life without parole. Maybe multiple consecutive life sentences." "So he dies in prison." "Yeah, probably." She stared at the documents, at the promise of freedom spelled out in legal jargon and official seals. "What about Marcus? Is he okay?" "He's fine. Gave a statement. They're treating him as a victim. He'll walk." "Good." "Aria." David leaned forward. "This is the best deal you're going to get. Take it." "Does Luca have the same offer?" "I don't know. I'm not his lawyer." "Find out." "Why?" "Because I want to know what he's choosing." David made a call. Waited. Had a conversation Aria couldn't fully hear. Hung up. He turned it down. Her heart stopped. What? The FBI offered him a deal 3 days ago. 20 years if he gave up his entire network. He said no. Why would he? Because apparently Luca Moretti doesn't betray people, even when it would save his life. Aria's chest was tight. So he's going to prison for the rest of his life? Yes, unless you testify. If you give them enough, they might reduce his sentence. You'd be doing him a favor. By betraying him? By giving him a chance at seeing daylight again before he's 80. She looked at the papers, at her signature line waiting to be filled. One stroke of a pen, and she was free. And Luca spent the rest of his life in a cage. Or she said no, went to prison herself, and they both rotted together in separate facilities, never seeing each other again but knowing they'd chosen loyalty over survival. Can I see him? She asked. Who, Luca? Yeah. They'd never allow it. Ask, please, David sighed, but he made another call. They allowed it. Not a normal visit. Aria was still technically in custody, but someone somewhere decided it might help their case if she saw what Luca had become. They brought her to the Federal Detention Center in Brooklyn, put her in a room with reinforced glass and phones on either side. Then they brought him in. Luca looked terrible. Orange jumpsuit, hands cuffed in front. 5 days without a razor left his jaw dark with stubble. His eyes were shadowed, face thinner than she remembered. But when he saw her through the glass, something shifted in his expression. Relief, pain, love. He sat, picked up the phone. Aria did the same. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then, "You look awful," she said. His laugh was broken. "You should see the other guy." There's another guy? Figure of speech, trying to be funny, failing. Yeah, you are. Silence stretched between them. So much to say. No idea where to start. I'm sorry, Luca said finally, for using you, for not telling you about the phone, for... He stopped. For all of it. The FBI says you turned down a deal. I don't make deals. Even ones that would save your life. Especially those. Why? He looked at her through the glass, and the honesty in his eyes broke her heart. Because I've done terrible things, Aria. To terrible people, mostly, but that doesn't erase it. I've killed, stolen, destroyed lives. I knew what I was building, knew it was wrong, and I did it anyway because I told myself I was in control, that I could manage the consequences. Luca, but I can't. The consequences found me, and I'm not going to drag anyone else down to avoid them. That's what you were doing when you used my phone? Managing consequences? He flinched. Yeah, and I'm sorry. I thought if I could control the information Volkov had, I could protect you, keep you out of it. But I was wrong. I just used you differently than he did. That's not... It's exactly what happened. And you have every right to hate me for it. Aria's throat was tight. I don't hate you. You should. Probably, but I don't. He closed his eyes. They're offering you immunity, if you testify. I know. Take it. No. His eyes opened. Aria, I'm not testifying against you. Why not? It would save your life and destroy yours. My life is already destroyed. I'm looking at life without parole, multiple counts. I'm never seeing the outside of a cell again. Then we're both going to prison. That's insane. You keep saying that like it's going to change my mind. Despite everything, he smiled. Just a little. Where have I heard that before? From someone who's just as stubborn as you are. His hand pressed against the glass. Aria pressed hers to match, as close to touching as they could get through bulletproof barriers in federal custody. I love you, he said. That's real. Whatever else I did, whatever mistakes I made, that part was real. I know. But love isn't enough. Not here. Not now. You need to save yourself. What if I don't want to be saved without you? Then you're choosing wrong. My choice to make. They sat like that, hands separated by glass, looking at each other across an impossible distance. A guard knocked on Aria's side. Time's up. Wait. She turned back to Luca. What happens now? Now, I go to trial, get convicted, spend the rest of my life paying for my choices. And me? You take the deal. Start over. Live the life you deserve. I deserve you. No. His voice was firm, final. You deserve better, and I'm going to make sure you get it. The guard knocked again. Harder. Luca stood. Goodbye, Aria. This isn't goodbye. I'll see you at trial. No, you won't, because you're going to be smart. Going to take the deal. He pressed his hand to the glass one last time. Be happy. That's all I want. Then he was gone. Guard leading him away. Door closing behind him. Aria sat alone in this visiting room, hand still pressed to glass that was already cooling, and realized that Luca Moretti had just made her choice for her. She took the deal. Not because she wanted to, because 3 days later, David came back with new information that changed everything. The FBI found something, he said, in Luca's files, a folder marked with your name. Aria's stomach dropped. What kind of folder? He pulled out papers, set them on the table between them. It was a trust, established 6 weeks ago, funding for her education, housing, living expenses, 20-year payout structured to look like a legitimate inheritance from a distant relative who didn't exist. Luca had set her up, made sure she'd be taken care of. Before he knew about Volkov's failsafe, before everything fell apart. There's more, David said quietly. He showed her another document. He contacted the FBI 5 days ago, from jail. Told them he'd cooperate. Give them everything, names, operations, every detail of his organization. But he said, he told me he turned down the deal. He did. For himself. But then he made a different deal, for you. The words didn't make sense. What? He gave them everything in exchange for full immunity for you, and Marcus, and anyone else Volkov targeted. The deal was finalized yesterday. Aria couldn't breathe. He's testifying? Against everyone. His entire network, people who trusted him, people who'll kill him for it. Why would he? Because the deal included protective custody for you, new identity, location unknown even to the FBI. You disappear, clean, safe, forever. Her hands were shaking. I never asked him to do that. No. But he did it anyway. David's expression was almost gentle. Aria, Luca Moretti is going to spend the rest of his life in witness protection, if he's lucky. More likely, someone from his old organization finds him and he ends up dead in a prison shower. He knows that, and he did it anyway. For you. The betrayal was complete now. Total. He'd taken away her choice, decided what was best, sacrificed himself without asking. Just like Derek had cheated without warning, just like Volkov had used her without consent. Except this time, the decision came from love instead of manipulation, and somehow that made it worse. I want to see him, she said. They're not allowing visits. He's in protective custody already, being moved to an undisclosed location tonight. Then get a message to him. Aria, please, just tell him I'm taking the deal, and that I hate him for making it. Do you? She thought about it, really thought. No, she whispered, but I need him to think I do, so he stops trying to save me. David nodded slowly. I'll see what I can do, Mamansi. The process took 6 weeks. 6 weeks of depositions and debriefings and meetings with U.S. Marshals who explained how witness protection worked, what she could keep, what she had to leave behind. Everything, it turned out. She had to leave behind everything. Marcus came to see her before she disappeared. They met in a safe house in New Jersey, anonymous suburban nowhere with beige walls and furniture that looked like it came from a catalog of sadness. You're really doing this, he said. Don't have much choice. You always have a choice. Not this time. He sat across from her, both of them drinking terrible coffee from a pot someone had made 3 hours ago. I'm going to miss you. I'm going to miss you too. Will you at least tell me where they're sending you? Can't. Don't even know myself until tomorrow. So this is just goodbye. Forever. Her throat was tight. Yeah. Marcus's eyes were wet. He didn't bother hiding it. This sucks. So much. You really love him, don't you, Luca? Yeah, I do. Even after everything. Especially after everything. That's so fucked up, she laughed, watery, broken. I know. They sat in silence, drinking bad coffee, Not saying the things that needed to be said because saying them made it real. Finally, Marcus stood. I should go. They said 10 minutes. We're at 12. Marcus. Yeah? Thank you. For everything. For being my friend when I needed one, for showing up, for... Her voice cracked. For not giving up on me. Never. He pulled her into a hug, careful of her shoulder. You're my best friend, Aria. That doesn't change just because you're disappearing into witness protection. I love you. Love you too. He left, and Aria sat alone in that safe house, drinking coffee that tasted like goodbye, waiting for her old life to officially end. Yeah, they moved her on a Tuesday, early morning, the kind of gray, anonymous day that matched her mood. 2 marshals, professional, efficient, utterly uninterested in her story, drove her to an airport she didn't recognize and put her on a plane to somewhere they wouldn't name. She slept through most of the flight. Exhaustion and painkillers and the bone-deep weariness of someone who'd lost everything and was still somehow breathing. When she woke, they were landing. The city below was smaller than New York, cleaner, mountains in the distance, desert somewhere beyond that. Welcome to Phoenix, the marshal said. Phoenix, as in rising from ashes. The metaphor was so heavy-handed it was almost funny. They drove her to an apartment in a neighborhood that looked exactly like the kind of place where people went to disappear. Mid-level buildings. Cars that were reliable but not flashy. People who minded their own business. This is yours, the marshal said, handing her keys. Rent's paid for the next year. After that, you're on your own. What about work? We've set you up with a job. Administrative assistant at a dental office. Starts Monday. Administrative assistant. Answering phones. Exactly what she'd done before Luca. Full circle. Except nothing was the same. Your new identity is in the packet on the kitchen table, the marshal continued. Birth certificate. Social security card. Driver's license. Study it. Memorize it. You're not Aria Velez anymore. Then who am I? That's up to you. But legally? You're Emma Walsh, 28, from Tempe. No family, no history worth mentioning. Emma Walsh. The name felt foreign, like trying on someone else's skin. What about... She stopped, because she couldn't ask about Luca. Couldn't know where he was, or if he was safe, or if someone had already found him. What about what? Nothing. Never mind. The marshals left. And Emma Walsh, because that's who she was now, stood in her empty apartment and tried to figure out how to be someone else. The first month was hell. Learning the new name, the new job, the manufactured history she had to recite when anyone asked questions. Phoenix was hot. Relentlessly, impossibly hot. The kind of heat that made New York summers feel like air conditioning. Aria, Emma, spent her days in the dentist's office answering phones and scheduling root canals and pretending she cared about insurance copays. Nights were worse. Nights she lay in her apartment, 1 bedroom, basic furniture, nothing that felt like home, and stared at the ceiling and thought about a man in a penthouse who'd made her feel real. Wondered if he was still alive. Wondered if he thought about her. Wondered if disappearing was its own kind of death. She made exactly 1 friend, a woman named Sarah who worked at the coffee shop next to the dentist's office and asked too many questions but meant well. You're new to Phoenix, right? Sarah asked one afternoon. Yeah, a couple months. Where from? Back east. Wanted a change. Bad breakup? Emma almost laughed. Something like that. Well, welcome to the desert. It's hot as hell, but at least nobody asked too many questions. If only that were true. 3 months in, a letter arrived. No return address. Postmarked from somewhere in the Midwest. Forwarded through channels Emma didn't understand and probably weren't legal. She opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a single piece of paper, handwritten. The script was familiar even though she'd only seen it a handful of times. I hope you're safe. I hope you're happy. I hope you hate me a little less than I hate myself. You were real. Remember that. L. Emma read it 17 times, then burned it in her kitchen sink the way the marshals had taught her to destroy anything that could tie her to her old life. Watched the paper curl and blacken and turn to ash. Cried for the first time since leaving New York. 6 months became a year. The job got easier. The name started to feel natural. Emma learned to drink iced coffee instead of hot, to drive with the AC blasting, to stop flinching every time someone walked up behind her. She went on a date. A guy from the dentist's office. Nice, stable, the kind of man who thought excitement meant trying a new restaurant. He kissed her goodnight, and she felt nothing. Went home alone and added him to the list of things that would never be enough. Vaya si. 18 months in, the news broke. Emma was at work when Sarah rushed in, phone in hand, face pale. Oh my God, did you see this? See what? That mob trial in New York. The witness just testified. They're saying he gave up everyone, his whole organization. It's insane. Emma's blood went cold. What witness? Sarah showed her phone. The headline read, Moretti testimony brings down criminal empire. Below it, a photo. Grainy, taken from a distance but unmistakable. Luca. Thinner, older, but alive. The article detailed his testimony, named names, described operations, painted a picture of an organization that had controlled half of New York's underground economy for 2 decades, and Luca had dismantled all of it. They're saying he'll probably die in prison, Sarah said. Someone from his old crew will get to him. It's just a matter of time. Emma couldn't breathe, couldn't think, could only stare at that photo and remember dark eyes and careful hands, and a voice that made her feel seen. You okay? Sarah asked. You look like you've seen a ghost. I'm fine, just shocked. It's a lot, right? Crazy what people do for love. What? The article says he did it for someone, a woman. They're not naming her because of witness protection, but… Sarah scrolled. Here. It says he made a deal to protect someone close to him, someone who'd been targeted by his enemies. Emma's vision blurred. He'd testified, put a target on his back, guaranteed his own death. For her. I need to go, she said. What? Your shift isn't… I'm sick. Tell Dr. Martinez I'm sorry. She grabbed her bag and ran. Back in her apartment, Emma pulled out a burner phone she'd bought months ago. Against the rules. Against every protocol the marshals had drilled into her. She called the only number she had memorized. David Chen answered on the 3rd ring. Hello? It's me. Silence. Then, Aria? Is he okay? Luca, I saw the news. Is he… I can't talk about this. You know I can't. David, please. He's alive. That's all I can tell you, and you need to hang up. This number is probably monitored. If they trace this call, I don't care. You should. He sacrificed everything to keep you safe. Don't waste it. The line went dead. Emma sat on her apartment floor. Burner phone in one hand, the weight of a year and a half of running pressing down on her chest. Luca was alive, but for how long? And what was she supposed to do with that information? Waltz. The answer came 3 weeks later. Emma was closing up the dentist's office when a car pulled up outside. Black sedan, tinted windows, engine idling. Every instinct she'd developed over the last 18 months screamed danger. She backed toward the rear exit. The car door opened. Sienna stepped out. Emma froze. Sienna looked exactly the same. Hard, efficient, the kind of woman who could kill you 6 ways before you hit the ground. She crossed the parking lot with purposeful strides. We need to talk. How did you find me? Does it matter? Yes, if you found me, that means… Relax, I'm the only one who knows, and I'm not here to expose you. Sienna glanced around. But we should probably have this conversation somewhere less public. They drove in silence to a park on the edge of the city. Desert scrub and hiking trails and enough space that no one would overhear. Luca's dying, Sienna said without preamble. Emma's world tilted. What? Someone got to him in protective custody, poisoned his food, slow acting. By the time they figured it out, the damage was done. How long? 3 months, maybe 4. Emma couldn't breathe. Where is he? Medical facility, federal protection. They're trying to keep him alive long enough to testify in 2 more trials. Can I see him? No, it's too dangerous for both of you. Then why are you here? Sienna was quiet for a long moment. Because he asked me to find you. Give you a message. What message? That he's sorry, that he doesn't regret anything, and that you should live, really live, not just survive. Emma's vision blurred. That's it? That's it. I want to see him. I don't care about the danger. It's not about danger. It's about time. He's got weeks left, maybe days, and he doesn't want you to remember him like that. That's not his choice. No, but it's his wish, and I'm honoring it. Sienna stood. I'm sorry, Aria, Emma, whoever you are now, but this is goodbye. Wait. But Sienna was already walking back to her car, already disappearing the way people in that world always did, leaving Emma alone in the desert with the knowledge that the man she loved was dying and she'd never see him again. Right. 3 months later, the news reported Luca Moretti's death. Heart failure. Complications from an ongoing medical condition. No foul play suspected, even though everyone knew better. Emma read the article in her apartment, tears streaming down her face, hands shaking so hard she could barely hold the phone. He was gone. Really, truly gone. And she hadn't even been able to say goodbye. She called in sick to work, spent 3 days in bed, staring at the ceiling, remembering a rooftop and a penthouse and hands that held her like she was the only thing keeping him anchored. On the 4th day, a package arrived. No return address. Just her name, Emma Walsh, written in handwriting that wasn't Luca's, but might have been Sienna's. Inside was a single item, a phone, old model, powered off. Emma turned it on with shaking hands. One message waited, a voice recording. She pressed play. Luca's voice filled her apartment, rough, tired, but unmistakably his. Aria, if you're hearing this, I'm already gone, and you're probably angry at me for dying, for leaving you alone, for making choices without asking. Add it to the list. His laugh was broken. I wanted to tell you in person, wanted to see your face one more time, but Sienna says it's too dangerous, that people are still looking for you, still trying to tie up loose ends. So this will have to do. A pause, the sound of breathing, machines beeping in the background. I don't regret it, any of it, the restaurant, the rooftop, bringing you into my world even though I knew it was wrong, because you were the first real thing I'd felt in 20 years, and real is worth dying for. Emma's chest was heaving, tears falling so fast she couldn't see. But here's the thing, you don't get to die with me. You get to live, really live. Not as Emma Walsh in witness protection, not as Aria Velez answering phones, as whoever you choose to be. That's the gift, the only one I can give you. Another pause. Longer. So live, Aria. Fall in love again. Fuck it up. Fix it. Build something beautiful or burn it all down. I don't care. Just don't waste it. Don't spend the rest of your life mourning a criminal who didn't deserve you in the first place. His voice cracked. I love you. That was real. Remember that when you forget everything else. The recording ended. Emma sat in the silence, holding a phone that connected her to a dead man, to a life that no longer existed. And slowly, painfully, she started to understand what he meant. She'd been surviving, hiding, pretending to be Emma Walsh while Aria Velez rotted inside. But that wasn't living. That was just another kind of prison. If Luca had sacrificed everything to give her freedom, the least she could do was use it. 2 years after arriving in Phoenix, Emma Walsh quit her job at the dentist's office, used the money from Luca's trust, the one she'd discovered through careful digging, to enroll in community college, studied business, then law, took the LSAT on a whim, and scored higher than expected. 3 years in, she applied to law schools, got accepted to Arizona State, cried in her apartment because Luca would have been proud and devastated that he'd never know. 4 years in, she graduated. Top of her class. Job offers from firms in Phoenix and Los Angeles and Seattle. She took none of them. Instead, she started her own practice. Small, focused on helping people like her, victims of crime, domestic violence survivors, people caught in systems that chewed them up and spit them out. The practice was called Velez Legal Services, not Walsh. Velez, because Emma Walsh was a mask, a protection. But Aria Velez was who she'd been before the wrong number, before Luca, before everything fell apart. and reclaiming that name felt like resurrection. 7 years after leaving New York, Aria stood in her office. Small space, secondhand furniture, client files stacked on every surface. But it was hers, built from nothing, proof that starting over was possible. Marcus called once a month, had figured out how to reach her through channels that were probably illegal but definitely appreciated. They talked about nothing, everything, the space between who they'd been and who they were becoming. Her mother called less often. Still didn't understand why Aria had disappeared, why she'd moved to Arizona and changed careers and refused to come home for holidays. Aria let her think it was about Derek, about needing space. It was easier than the truth. Sarah, the coffee shop Sarah, was still her friend, still asked too many questions, still meant well. And sometimes, late at night, Aria pulled out that phone with Luca's voice recording, listened to him tell her to live, and tried to make it true. Well, 10 years after the wrong number, Aria Velez sat in her office and thought about the photo that started everything. The daring bid to reclaim confidence, the mistyped contact, the man who'd appeared in her life like a storm. She'd loved him, completely, recklessly, in a way that nearly destroyed her. And he'd loved her back. Enough to die for it, enough to let her go. That kind of love didn't come twice, but it had come once, and that somehow was enough. She pulled out a notebook, started writing. Not a legal brief, not case notes, just words, memories. The story of a woman who'd sent a photo to a wrong number and found something real in the wreckage. Maybe one day she'd show it to someone. Maybe it would stay locked in a drawer forever, but writing it felt like closing a circle, like honoring what they'd been while accepting what they'd become. Aria wrote until her hand cramped, until the sun set over the desert outside her window, until the words ran out and only silence remained. Then she closed the notebook, turned off the lights, walked out into the Phoenix night, dry heat and distant mountains and a sky full of stars that New York had never let her see, and kept walking. Because Luca had been right about one thing, real was rare, dangerous, worth the risk of getting destroyed. But surviving the destruction, building something new from the ashes, that was the real victory. And Aria Velez, not Emma Walsh, not anyone's victim, not anyone's weapon, was finally, impossibly, completely alive.